Chapter 2841. The police looked sympathetic. They knew that celebrities had no privacy. For the headlines, they might not care about the safety of the hostage and report it. Ning Shu said to Yu Wei, who was stunned, "Tell your partner not to tell anyone about Luhi's kidnapping. I don't want Luhi to be hurt a second time." Yu Wei immediately nodded, "I know." The police continued to ask, "Then how did you find the location of the criminal?" Ning Shu blew her nose and sobbed, "You know how scared I was when I received the call from the gangster. I cried while dealing with the gangster, while trembling. I used the computer to find the location and then drove there. I was scared to be alone." A police officer handed the laptop to Ning Shu. "Please crack the files on this computer." Obviously, he didn't believe that Ning Shu would do such a high-end operation. Ning Shu threw away the paper in his hand and took the computer. He used the computer to hack into the police system and crack the files. Here. She was, after all, a hacker. Although she was broke now, she still had her skills from before. The police looked at Ning Shu with a complicated expression, especially since he had tampered with the system. "Then whose gun was it?" Ning Shu said without thinking, "It wasn't mine. The control of guns and knives is so strict. I'm a public figure. It's even more impossible for me to break the law. That gun belonged to the criminal. I fired a shot and hit the criminal with a stool. The room is only so big. His aim was so bad. He didn't hit you." Ning Shu looked at the police officer. The police officer was stared at by Ning Shu and knew that his words were a bit too much. Ning Shu said, "He did fire a shot, but he didn't hit me." After investigating, Ning Shu didn't have any suspicions. Ning Shu begged, "Officer, can you not release this information to the public? I'm a public figure. If the entertainment reporters know about it, they might say something. My daughter has already suffered so much. I didn't expect the reporters to say such things. They might even say that my daughter was raped by a criminal. Some reporters don't care what the truth is. They only care that their reports are explosive and can attract attention. But it's a huge blow to my daughter. She's already been kidnapped, yet someone said such things." The policeman nodded. "Got it. We'll handle this matter, so let's talk about the situation." Ning Shu's expression was solemn. Although he had saved the person, the matter of the future was still quite difficult to deal with, especially the groundless rumors. When a girl was kidnapped, most people would guess what would happen to her. Especially when there were 4 men, it was too explosive. Ning Shu exhaled. Those kidnappers wouldn't let them off just like that. They would make them suffer until they died. Especially when the client was tortured to death. Their methods were outrageous. Ning Shu started to sort out his assets. Luckily, the client still had some money. Otherwise, he would be helpless in the face of such a situation. You wouldn't be able to do anything even if you were splashed with feces. Yu Wei walked into the ward. He looked a little embarrassed and angry. "That, Wuxia, that bitch turned around and exposed this matter to the news agency." Ning Shu looked at Yu Wei expressionlessly. Yu Wei's face trembled. He promised repeatedly, "Don't worry, Luhi is my precious daughter. I definitely won't let her get hurt." Ning Shu said, "You really don't have any charm. Women don't care about your feelings at all. One day, you'll die in a woman's stomach." He didn't reject anyone. Everyone was just playing. If he walked too much at night, he would meet ghosts. Don't think that all women are gentle and kind. Ning Shu felt that she wasn't kind. Yu Wei quickly found bodyguards to block outside the ward. Sure enough, not long after, the media swarmed in like cats that smelled blood. They blocked the door and made a lot of noise. They didn't care whether the person in the ward was resting or not. Some of the reporters were shouting, asking Yu Lihi to tell them how she was kidnapped. Anyway, for the sake of the headlines, they gave it their all. Because there were bodyguards at the door, they didn't let the flood of reporters in. Even so, the bodyguards were sweating profusely. They were pushing and shoving each other. Their clothes were wrinkled. Seeing this, Yue was so angry that the veins on his forehead were popping. He quickly found a few more bodyguards. He was furious. Interview your ass. My daughter is still sleeping in the ward. Reporter A, Mr. Yu, can you tell us who kidnapped your daughter? What's the reason? Is it a business rival or revenge? Reporter B, please tell us, Mr. Yu. We have the right to know. Reporter C, XXXX, you ass. Yue sneered. What right to know? I have the right to privacy. Let me tell you, if you block my way here today and scare my daughter, I won't let you off. Reporter D, Mr. Yu, is your daughter seriously injured? What happened to her during the kidnapping? Let us take a picture. Yue thought that he was a gentlemanly person. But at this moment, he had the urge to beat these bitches to death. Fuck, you can't be calm when you're in trouble. You even want to take pictures. I want to take pictures of your dead body. Ning Shu opened the door of the ward and closed it behind her. The reporters immediately started snapping photos and shoving their microphones into Ning Shu's mouth. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and looked at these reporters. He silently memorized the names of these media companies. In a sad tone, he asked these reporters not to report on this. Everyone present received an envelope. There was quite a lot of money in the envelope. It was very thick. These entertainment reporters had braved the wind and rain just to earn money, so they accepted it all. As for whether to report on it or not, it was completely up to the media company to decide. It was not something that small fries like them could control. It would be a waste if they did not take it. These reporters retreated for the time being. However, they still stayed near the hospital. Perhaps they could take some useful pictures. Or perhaps pictures of the young girl in pain and despair. The traffic to the media company's newspapers and websites would definitely increase. Ning Shu used his fastest speed to send a sum of money to a few large media companies. They called and begged the media companies not to report on this matter. Their daughters could not afford to be hurt a second time. Of course, the phone calls were recorded. There were also records of the money transfers and information. These were all evidence. Did they really think that money was easy to take and that they would have to spit it out? Twice the amount. Ning Shu stuffed all the money he had into these media companies' mouths. He was very generous. Chapter 2842. Moreover, Ning Shu knew that this matter could not be stopped. This matter would be reported sooner or later. His parents were famous people. Ordinary people would like to see a famous person's child encounter such a thing. There was even a hidden dark thought that gloated in his heart and said that he deserved it. For rich people to encounter such a situation, they must have done too many bad things and earned too much money. Serves them right. No matter what thoughts they had, sympathy or gloating, this was big news. These newspapers and web portals would definitely report it. Yu Lihe slept for a day before waking up. When Ning Shu saw that she was awake, he quickly asked, "Lihe, are you hungry?" "Mom, I'm so scared. I'm so scared." Yu Lihe was in a trance as tears flowed down her face. Ning Shu quickly comforted her, "It's okay. Everything is over. The bad guys have been caught. Mom saved you. For you, Mom fought with the gangsters. Lihe, you have to be strong." Yu Lihe was only a teenager. After encountering such a thing, she could not listen at all. She hugged Ning Shu tightly and did not let go. Yue saw his daughter like this and his heart ached. Although his daughter was with his ex-wife, it was also because it was inconvenient for a man like him to raise a daughter. He also knew that he liked women. Didn't the ancestors say that food and sex were human nature? It was inconvenient for his daughter to follow him. So when his ex-wife wanted his daughter, he agreed without hesitation. Yue Wei ran to the police station every day. He wanted to know what kind of punishment these gangsters would face. If that was the case, he might as well spend more money to torture these people. Kidnap his daughter. Did they really think that he was the male lead of the gossip? If he did not have money, how could he play with so many women? These criminals had washed their eyes to slightly dilute the spiciness in their eyes. However, their eyes had been severely damaged and they could only see things in a blur. Their eyes were swollen into slits and their faces were red. Because their faces were also stained with chili, their faces were also red and swollen. There were also many bruises on their bodies. It was obvious that they had been beaten up. Some of them even had fractures. When the police came to record their statements, these gangsters were crying. On one hand, it was because of the spiciness. On the other hand, it was because they were really wronged and in pain. The police asked why Yu Lihi was kidnapped. These gangsters were originally gangsters. They did not have much money. They usually did some jobs that did not pay much, but the money they earned was not as much as the money they spent. When she saw the divorced rich women in the newspapers, her eyes lit up when she saw the huge amount of compensation. With such a sum of money, he didn't need to do anything. He could just lie down and get a lot of money. Moreover, she was a divorced woman. She was an orphan and a widow, so she was easy to bully. Therefore, after a period of investigation, these criminals finally made a move on Yu Lihi. The only way to make the rich woman give him money was to capture her daughter. The fighting was basically as Ning Shu had described. The police finished taking the statement and sorted out the evidence. Fortunately, there were no casualties. It was solved just like that. Until now, the police did not believe that a woman could have rushed in and fought with the gangsters to save their daughter. She even beat up the criminal to such a state. She looked so weak and weak. It was really incredible. In any case, the four of them were prepared to go to jail. Kidnapping was a crime of at least 10 years to life imprisonment. Moreover, the kidnapper was a celebrity. This would have a bad influence on society. There was no room for discussion. More police officers were sent to guard the surroundings. They could not let these people escape. However, these people's eyes were as if they were going to be blind. Their legs and arms were all in plaster. A mother's anger. These injuries were completely caused by the victim's self-defense. Yue Wei walked into the ward quietly. Seeing that Yu Lihi was sleeping, Ning Shu gestured for him to go out. Ning Shu stopped chanting the mind-clearing mantra and went out of the ward with Yue Wei. Yue Wei said, "The results of this matter should be out soon. The evidence is ready. I plan to spend some money to torture these people in prison." The people in prison were all vicious and evil people. Evil people needed evil people to deal with evil people. Ning Shu nodded. He had no opinion. After all, he was Yu Lihi's father. The media over there has already been informed. They probably won't report this matter. Ning Shu stood by the window and looked at the paparazzi around the hospital. How could they not report this? It was such a big matter. The daughter of a female star and the daughter of a male lead in a scandal were kidnapped. Was it for love, revenge, or money? There were too many things that could be dug out. For love, they could fabricate the conspiracy between Yue Wei's women and his ex-wife. For revenge, they could also write a lot of things. In short, as long as they had a pen, there was nothing that couldn't be written. When the time came, the police would transfer the gangsters in the hospital. When they left the hospital, these reporters would rush over to interview them like crazy. Thinking about what happened during the kidnapping, and then relying on a little information, they could imagine a full of twists and turns and stimulate the eyes of the people. They would attract the people in whatever way they could. At this time, if those gangsters said something in front of the reporters, Especially if they were led by the reporters to say that they violated Yulihi. Even if there was no such thing, these media reporters and writers could write as if it was true. After all, these gangsters had been sprayed with so much chilly water by her and had been beaten. It was hard to guarantee that they would not have evil thoughts and slander her. Anyway, they had been caught. If they could get one person out of the water, they would drag him down. So, they had to make these people unable to speak. Ning Shu arrived at the ward of the four gangsters at 11:00 in the evening. She was stopped by the police. "You can't go in. I just want to say a few words. I'll come out soon. You can watch me. They will be sent away tomorrow. I just want to ask, is there a grudge or something? Why are you doing this?" Ning Shu cried and blew her nose with a tissue. Anyway, her eyes were red, like a rabbit's eyes. The police had no choice but to follow Ning Shu into the ward. When Ning Shu saw these people, she was very excited. She pounced over and hammered the gangster's chest, according to the acupoints. The gangster suddenly felt a numbing sensation in his neck, as if something had pierced his body. The pain was so intense that he wanted to scream, but he couldn't make a sound at all. When the police saw how excited Ning Shu was, they hurriedly went over to pull her. Ning Shu broke free of the police's control and did the same thing, making the four gangsters unable to speak. Moreover, in the process of hammering, she aggravated the injuries on their bodies. The gangsters' red faces instantly turned pale from the pain. Ning Shu was dragged out by the police. Her mouth kept cursing at the gangsters. The police wiped the cold sweat on his head. He was too tired. The four gangsters were yelling at their partners in the bed next to them. They clearly wanted to say something, but they couldn't. Chapter 28:43. What was going on? The ferocious criminal was at a loss and helpless. Why was he suddenly speechless? Ning Shu gritted his teeth and returned to the ward. Yulihi woke up and wanted to get out of bed to look for her. Ning Shu helped her to the bed and then asked Yu Wei to bring something light for his daughter to eat. Yu Wei probably felt guilty and did whatever he was told. When eating, he even comforted his daughter, "Lihi, don't worry, your father will not let those people have a good time." Yulihi couldn't swallow the porridge in her mouth. When this matter was mentioned, she thought of the panic and the desperate struggle at that time. She never knew that people could be so vicious and cruel to this extent. Ning Shu said to Yu Wei, "Don't talk about this. Go and do your work. I'm not busy. I want to accompany my daughter." Yu Wei obviously didn't understand Ning Shu's look. He sat down and chattered, "Lihi, don't be afraid." Yulihi's face was very bitter. She was about to cry. Ning Shu kicked Yu Wei's leg, "I'm hungry. Go and get something to eat." Yu Wei had no choice but to go and buy food. The reporters guarding the hospital entrance were too annoying. Especially in the middle of the night, he still had to go out to buy food. The next morning, the four kidnappers were taken away by the police and locked up. Their bodies were almost recovered and they wouldn't stay in the hospital. How could there be such a good thing? When the police officers escorted the suspects downstairs, the reporters swarmed over, wanting to get some juicy news from the four suspects. But they asked a lot of questions. Why were they kidnapped? How did they treat the kidnapped hostages? What was their relationship with Wuxia and Yu Wei? They asked a lot, but the suspects just opened their mouths and didn't say anything. Even when they arrived at the police station, these people still couldn't speak. When they were questioned, these people couldn't make a sound. The police officer was so angry that he almost threw his pen. What was the meaning of this silence? Was silence okay? This was irrefutable evidence. None of the four people opened their mouths. The police officer was so angry that he laughed. It turned out that they had an agreement. They didn't open their mouths. Did they refuse to confess? It doesn't matter if you confess or not, you can still be punished. Although Ning Shu and Yu Wei had bribed the news agency before, they still reported this matter. For a time, several newspaper headlines were about the kidnapping of the actress and rich businessman's daughter. After being tied up for a day and a night, she was subjected to inhumane torture. Yu Lihi's photo was printed in the newspaper. Unlike in the plot, it was a normal photo. In addition, Yu Xia and Yu Wei's photos were also posted. The family of three was on the front page of the newspaper. A picture of them together occupied more than half of the headlines. When Ning Shu saw these newspapers, he immediately called the newspaper companies to question them. At the same time, he turned on the recording. Ning Shu made a phone call. His voice was pitiful. He had clearly given them money, so why did they still report it? They even printed his daughter's photo clearly in the newspaper. After uploading it to the portal, his daughter couldn't sleep well and was trembling in fear. I'm a public figure, but my daughter isn't. You've received millions of dollars. Why did you do this? Is it because you didn't give enough money? Then, Ning Shu transferred some money to the newspaper companies and the portal, asking them to stop publishing the newspaper. Some of the newspapers were more explicit. They tried their best to lead in that direction. They felt that Yu Lihi might have been raped by criminals. Yu Wei was so angry that he tore the newspaper into pieces. What kind of fucking grudge was this? It was fine if they reported his scandals. He was a man and it didn't matter. He was a playboy. A playboy was a man's ability. But his daughter was only in her teens. Her reputation was ruined just like that. He wanted to fucking kill someone. Ning Shu took these newspaper companies to court as fast as he could. They were charged with blackmail, fraud, and defamation. They had received money for blackmail and fraud, but they still reported it. She even transferred money a second time. They were so cruel to a girl who had been kidnapped and hadn't come back to her senses until now. He had tried to extort money from her twice through fraud and blackmail. Every newspaper company received millions of dollars. Of course, Ning Shu had already spent all his money. He borrowed some from Yu Wei. He would return the money to her when he got back. In short, Ning Shu quickly hired a team of lawyers. He was also a lawyer, but it was better to hire a team of lawyers. In short, he attacked these newspaper companies from all aspects: social impact, morality, and the law. Recordings, money transfers, and all kinds of evidence were prepared. In a short time, the bigger newspaper companies received the court summons. Ioyo, reporting on you will increase your fame. You're even going to court. Write, continue writing. Anyway, the articles were getting more and more ridiculous. They had escalated from reporting on the incident to personal attacks. They even reported the scandals of the previous clients. Every celebrity who didn't have any scandals were being spread like this. They said that Yu Xia was a woman who relied on seducing rich businessmen to achieve a comeback. She received a large sum of money after her divorce. It was like a fighter jet among bitches. When Ning Shu went on TV, she cried her heart out and begged the newspaper companies to stop reporting on her daughter's matters. Her daughter had experienced such a thing and was traumatized. She had psychological problems. She could give them as much money as they wanted. Stop reporting on her daughter's matters. How was her daughter going to live in the future? She had to face the criticism of others. Everyone had children. Imagine that their children were kidnapped and their lives were hanging by a thread. She had to face so many rumors when she came back. It would drive her to death. People sympathized with the weak. She was a female celebrity, but she cried so hard and looked so haggard. Most people couldn't bear to see her like this, especially when it involved her child. Public opinion was controlled by capital. The newspaper companies could control it, but so could Ning Shu. Fortunately, he had some money. If he acted high and mighty at this time, people would probably say that he deserved it. Since he wanted to blow things up, he would blow things up. He would blow things up until the relevant departments couldn't stand it anymore and would take action. One piece of news cost a few million. If he wasn't satisfied with it once, he would do it again and make more noise. Ning Shu felt that if she continued to act like this, she might be banned. It was not good for a celebrity to make such a fuss. Therefore, Ning Shu cried so hard that she looked like she was forced into a corner. In order to not violate her persona, Ning Shu's face was really haggard. She was a female celebrity who was almost 40 years old. Time was unforgiving. Without any makeup, she looked extremely haggard. Her beauty couldn't be seen. Her face without rich collagen was full of gloom and despair. Anyway, more and more people were getting involved in this matter. Chapter 28:44. Whenever there was a fight, there would be cheers and shouts, as well as persuasion. Ning Shu was fighting with these news agencies and portal websites, letting some people take their positions and attack the other party. The media was very convenient. They could attack people directly in the newspapers, gossip magazines, or on the internet. As for Ning Shu's side, she was in a relatively weak and struggling situation. Many celebrities in the industry posted on Weibo and public platforms to crusade against these people. Celebrities and the entertainment media complemented each other. Without the media, celebrities would not be able to increase their fame. Without interviews, where would they get traffic and popularity? If the media did not pay attention to these popular celebrities, they would not be able to survive. They had to make money from these celebrities. Many celebrities were harassed by the paparazzi. The general public was no longer satisfied with seeing celebrities on the screen. They wanted to see what those glamorous and beautiful people on the screen were like in private. They wanted to know more about these people's lives. Especially their private lives. This would give people the thrill of peeping. It was like how people like to read the secret histories of the rich and powerful, the love and hatred of the rich and powerful. They wanted to see the matters of the people at the top. There were needs and benefits. Other than the normal cooperation between the media and celebrities, it was more profitable to dig into the lives of celebrities like this. Many celebrities began to bombard the unscrupulous media. Imagine going out for a meal, no matter who you were with, there would be paparazzi taking pictures of you. Then, they would look at the pictures and write a story, an attractive story. If you were dressed sloppily or wore a pair of slippers, without makeup, you could take it out and write about it. The general public paid the most attention to the relationships of celebrities. In short, many celebrities were treading on thin ice when faced with paparazzi who were impossible to guard against. They were wary of taking pictures of something unfavorable to them, and then their fans would leave them. Other than work, celebrities spent most of their time in love and hate with paparazzi. They invaded all aspects of their private lives, including their families. Ning Shu cried himself hoarse on the show, begging the media not to report about his daughter. Some netizens on the internet sympathized, some were indifferent, and some said, if it's really for the good of your daughter, you shouldn't have made such a big deal out of it. This logic was more or less, even if the other party said, don't make a fuss. Then, the other party would feel bored and would not write about you. Fighting like this will only make things worse and worse. You keep saying that you're doing this for your daughter, but you're clearly trying to hype things up. Luo was divided into 3 factions. There were those who sympathized with him, especially since his idol's favorite celebrity had attacked the media. The second was the calm type. They were calm and objective, but this type of person was very rare. Ordinary people, when faced with overwhelming information, would only violently stuff it into their own brain. Analysis and whatnot did not exist, and they would just follow what others said. The third one was, whatever you do to be in the limelight is just a publicity stunt. The bottom line of celebrities was really getting lower and lower. They were using their own children to create publicity. When Yue saw these newspaper articles, he was so angry that he wanted to smash his computer. Fuck, what the fuck is this? From ancient times until now, it was still those who ate human blood buns that were the onlookers. If he wanted to create hype, he could just find a woman to pose for the paparazzi. There was no need to use his daughter to create hype. Hype my ass. Damn it, these people must have a problem with their brains. Did they not pay enough IQ taxes? Compared to Yu Wei's agitation and anger, Ning Shu was much calmer. Of course, he had a haggard face, but he gave people the feeling that there was no greater sorrow than a dead heart. During the time that Yu Lihi was hospitalized, there were still many reporters surrounding the hospital. They couldn't wait to break through the door and rush in to ask Yu Lihi questions. What does it feel like to be kidnapped? What happened during the kidnapping? Can you talk about how you feel now? Yu Wei was simply shocked by these people's thick skin. They had already fought to this extent, and they still wanted to interview them to increase the circulation of their newspaper. A few large media companies were relentlessly attacking his family. They exposed how many women he had played with in the past. They even wrote that he was a lecherous wolf who did not care if the women agreed or not and forced himself on them. Yu Wei rolled his eyes. Forced. Everyone was willing. Those women had received so many benefits from him. The company also lost some money because of these inexplicable things. Yu Wei was ruthless in his heart. He said to Ning Shu, I will destroy these newspapers. Ning Shu felt that if one was destroyed, many would come out. As long as people's desire to pry and kindness did not disappear, these things would not disappear. And they would become more and more fierce. There were many benefits. These celebrities and public figures earned a lot, so they paid a lot of hush money, which was in the tens of thousands. Money came quickly. Many people said that entertainers earned money and wanted to make money from this group of people. But there were some things that went too far. Ning Shu felt that since the situation was already like this, it was better to add fuel to the fire and make it bigger. Don't worry about it. Isn't the court session in half a month? Let's talk about it after the court session. Ning Shu said. He wanted to fight this lawsuit to be the focus of attention. With so many people's attention, the relevant departments would pay attention to the public opinion. Yu Wei's face was livid. He was very angry that his former bed partner leaked the news of his daughter's kidnapping to the media. Didn't he say not to leak it? Was that woman's brain eaten by a pig? Others gave her a little benefit and she took it. Did he not give her a lot of benefits? She threw away a watermelon and picked up a sesame seed. She was so short-sighted that Yu Wei was dumbfounded. The reporter gave her a temporary benefit and a one-time deal. That woman couldn't take it. She still felt that he couldn't find her. Yu Wei deeply understood how important it was for a beautiful woman to have a smart brain. A smart brain would be able to seize the opportunity during the trial. If she was good and obedient, it was fine if she didn't have a brain. The key was that she didn't have a brain and still thought that she was smart. Yu Wei thought that after this matter was resolved, he would deal with that woman's matter. Now things were chaotic enough. He had to stabilize that woman first. Ning Shu looked at Yu Wei's expression as if he had stepped on shit. He was a little gloating. Everyone was just playing around. Who took who seriously? Could it be that Yu Wei thought that he was very charming and that the woman was unable to extricate herself? The one who was untainted was the White Lotus female lead. She didn't want it and asked for money. Asking for money was an insult to her. Of course, Yu Wei felt Ning Shu's gaze. She sent herself to my door. How could I not want it? TSK. Ning Shu pushed open the ward. Yu Lihi was sleeping. Ning Shu sat quietly on the sofa next to her. /BK. Chapter 28:45. Yu Lihi's eyebrows were tightly knitted in her sleep. She looked nervous. She must have dreamt of something frightening. She couldn't sleep well. In the future, she would have to undergo psychological counseling. A child who had encountered such a thing would definitely be scared. It was normal to be scared out of your wits, especially when there was an overwhelming amount of malicious words outside the ward. Ning Shu could only try his best to isolate these messages. He told Yulihi not to read the newspapers or play with her phone. He only gave her some joke books and colorful makeup. When she was bored, she would read them. He also asked the doctors and nurses in the hospital not to talk about what had happened recently in front of his daughter. If Yulihi really couldn't take it and committed suicide, those people wouldn't feel guilty. They would only think that you had lost. It was a pile of bones built on benefits. The process of capital's operation was originally trampling on morality and law. The different benefits determined the extent of the trampling. Mom. Yulihi woke up and saw Ning Shu's haggard face. She instantly felt that her mother had aged a lot. Ning Shu smiled. Are you hungry? Yulihi nodded and said, Mom, I want to go out for a walk. Ning Shu looked hesitant. If she went out for a walk, what would she do if she met the reporters downstairs? Those reporters hadn't left yet. I'm too bored. I'm fine now. Mom, I want to go out for a walk. I still have to study. Yulihi said. I've already applied for leave from school. Rest more. Your health is the most important. Ning Shu felt that she should let Yulihi stay away from here. She didn't have to go back to her original school. Recently, the media had been splashing fragrances and smells on her and Yue. They also splashed on Yulihi. In the face of familiar classmates, those strange looks and whispers behind people's backs, how could an ordinary person withstand such huge pressure? Yulihi didn't force herself to go to school. Her mind was a mess. She even suspected that she had been scared silly. I'm sorry. Your father and I implicated you and caused you to suffer such things. Also, there are a lot of media reporters outside who want to interview you. They want you to explain the kidnapping process. Your father and I stopped you, so I didn't let you go out. Recently, your father's and my reputation has been bad in the newspapers. Ning Shu used the spring and autumn annals to describe this matter, neither light nor heavy. Yulihi's face was pale, and she no longer said that she was going out for a walk. She had to face so many cameras, and the flashing lights made her eyes hurt. Now she was even afraid of the nurses. However, Ning Shu was worried that Yulihi wouldn't be able to get out of this world of fear. She opened her bag, took out some makeup tools, and said to Yulihi, but you can still go out for a walk. Mom will put on makeup for you. I guarantee that no one will recognize you. Yulihi shook her head hesitantly. No. It's all right. Ning Shu quickly put on makeup for Yulihi. She took off her hospital gown and put on ordinary clothes. Ning Shu also put on makeup for herself, making her look older. He called Yue and told him that he would not be in the ward. Ning Shu held Yulihi's hand and walked out of the hospital. Yulihi lowered her head, and her hair covered her face. She didn't dare to be touched by others. Ning Shu took her to eat. They ate skewers and drank beer on the street. Anyway, no one would recognize her in her current appearance. Ning Shu made a lot of meat skewers. It was evening, and the barbecue shop's business was quite good. A dirty TV was showing the entertainment news. However, Ning Shu's cries were playing in the background. Her pleas and cries were sobbing blood. Yulihi's body stiffened. Mom, what's going on? Because they insisted on reporting about you. They even said that you were abused by gangsters. I don't want them to do that. They took my money, but they still want to report about this. I have no choice but to beg. I can't beg, so I can only go to the court. I hope that you can be stronger. Those people can say anything as long as they have a mouth. If you really can't stand it, then it will be painful for your family and happy for your enemies. She had only experienced such a thing because she was alive and had hope. When she really went to die, others said that she should die because she was ashamed. If she was shameless, she should have died long ago. Yulihi couldn't eat the skewers at all. She held the skewers and cried. "Mom, I'm scared." She thought that she had escaped from the gangsters, but now she realized that things weren't that simple. What happened next was even more difficult to feel sad about. She didn't ask for anyone's care and comfort, but how could they do such a thing to someone who had just met with misfortune? Didn't the teacher say that the more a person had the right to speak, the more cautious they should be? Ning Shu patted her head. "Don't be afraid, Mom will protect you. When this matter is resolved, Mom will take you away and move to another place. After a long time, this matter will slowly be forgotten. Mom, let's go back." Yulihi felt a little nauseous. She didn't know if it was because the meat was not clean or because of other reasons. Ning Shu saw that Yulihi was still calm, and her heart was slightly relieved. On the way back to the hospital, Yulihi held on to Ning Shu's hand tightly. Her palms were sweating and her body was trembling. Ning Shu held her hand and said lovingly, "Daughter, other people have nothing to do with us. We can't hurt ourselves for others. It's not worth it to be sad for irrelevant things." Ning Shu said. Yulihi said in a muffled voice, "I know. I just feel cold, very cold." Because Yulihi knew about this matter, her emotions were very unstable. The doctor had to give her a sedative before she could fall asleep. Ning Shu turned on the computer. The internet was still raging. The whole nation was watching the drama. The internet made the spread of news more convenient and faster. Many people left comments on her Weibo. Some were scolding, some were sympathetic, and some were encouraging. These media outlets privately looked for Ning Shu and asked him to withdraw the lawsuit. They wanted everyone to forget about this matter. Ning Shu turned his head and posted a long post on the public platform. The general content was, "Forget it if you say so. But what about the harm done to my daughter and me? She had spent all her money, and she was a miserable mother who couldn't get justice for herself." Ning Shu's tone was angry and helpless. He had hurt others and laughed it off. He just looked for someone to talk about it in private. He didn't even say sorry. The media was high and mighty, and public figures had to ask him for help. He had to bear all the scolding and beating. Ning Shu posted the long post and then sent a message to the relevant department, asking them to ban her. From then on, she would leave the entertainment industry. He only asked the entertainment news and newspapers not to use a child's matter to attract people's attention. Being banned was what stars were most afraid of. They couldn't participate in certain activities or work, or were prohibited from broadcasting certain programs or publications, or were prohibited from spreading certain news. /BK Chapter 2846. She would not be able to survive in this industry anymore. No one would look for her to act in shows. Not to mention that newspapers, magazines, screens, and portals were not allowed to appear. She would not be able to make a living in this industry. He had been completely frozen. Even if he was frozen, he would still show his face. Banning him was an order from the government. This matter had caused a huge uproar and everyone was watching. She did not believe that the relevant departments would not know about it. Ning Shu took the initiative to extend an olive branch to prevent the news from spreading by banning her. As for creating hype, it was for the sake of her career. But if she was banned, what was the point of her career? Ning Shu was taking a step back in order to advance. Even if she really banned her and caused such a big commotion, she would not target her in the future. After all, she was just a pitiful mother who gave up her career for her daughter. But this was not the case for the media industry. It was such a mess and needed to be rectified. What was the use of taking revenge on one newspaper after another? He had to grab them by the throat. In this country, how could they not be under the control of the country? Then, Ning Shu quietly waited for the day of the court hearing. He had been organizing the evidence. He had sent a request to the government to ban her, but they did not reply. They were probably waiting for this case to be over. They needed a strong dose of medicine. But obviously, the news of Ning Shu's request to be banned had spread. How could these newspaper companies not have someone behind them? They felt that something was wrong. If this carried on, this big ship would sink. The entire entertainment media industry would be in trouble. Then, those newspaper companies and netizens who said that Ning Shu was creating hype and that a middle-aged woman was using her daughter to gain sympathy were slapped in the face. They felt that their faces were hurting. They had said that she was creating hype, but now, she did not even want her career to be banned. Many celebrities were surprised by Ning Shu's decision. Banning her? How much money would she earn? Endorsements, filming TV dramas, movies, these were all money. And it was not a small amount. She did not want any of these. But if she was banned, she could do some behind-the-scenes work. She could invest in movies, TV dramas, and variety shows. But she would lose her fame very quickly. Fame was life to a celebrity. However, more people joined the crusade against the entertainment media industry. Some of the silent people also spoke up. Ning Shu sacrificed his career to shut the mouths of those who were trying to create hype. At the same time, it also made the media a little nervous. They knew some of the reports in their hearts. They immediately stopped publishing about the kidnapping. But these newspapers, Ning Shu collected them without missing a single one. He cut out the important parts of the newspapers and organized them into a thick pile of evidence. Then, he sorted out the doctor's medical report. It was not just one doctor's report, but several doctors and even the director's report. All the evidence had been sorted out. There was no escaping the charges of slander and extortion. The money in the account was fake. Probably because they felt that the money was too hot to handle, all the news agencies that had bribed them all returned the money. Ning Shu put the money in big bags and prepared to use it as evidence in court. What's the use of strings of numbers? You have to hold real money, pocket after pocket. The dazzling banknotes are more shocking. Also, there was a record of the money transfer. Even if you return it to me, it does not mean that you did not receive it before. Ning Shu recorded all the calls from the news agencies, whether it was threats or peace talks. Daddy country, look, they are still threatening me. It was getting closer and closer to the day of the trial. The news agencies were not weak, and they had people backing them. They had hired wave after wave of the best lawyers to form a legal team. At the same time, there was no news from the government. He did not know how they would react. This lack of reaction was the scariest. It was like the calm before the storm. Really, after becoming a celebrity and enjoying the limelight, she should have expected her life to be like this. She wanted the limelight, and she wanted an absolute private life. She was a bitch and still wanted a monument to her chastity. She even wanted to sue the news agencies. She was not afraid of ruining her reputation. Alright, now she really did not dare to write anything. It was because of this that she felt aggrieved. Also, the lawyer said that this case was not going to be easy. She took the money but did not fulfill her promise. The other party called twice. Strictly speaking, this was not just extortion. It could also be considered bribery. If she used bribery, she could pull the other party down. Accepting bribes was a crime of bribery. She did bribe them. But this was a crime that would hurt both sides. The other party had no choice. It was completely unacceptable. Also, fabricating facts was something that had solid evidence. Could they take back all the impurities in the newspapers that were sent out? That was impossible. The portal could delete these reports so that netizens could not see them. But the newspapers and magazines could not. So it was a scam. The lawyers suggested a settlement in court. If this matter was blown up, it would be considered a win. The government might punish her even more severely, forcing her to sue and blacklist her in exchange for the disappearance of the reports. It was not good. The other party wanted to perish together with them. With her crying like that, they would think that she was putting on an act to gain sympathy. They could only take it one step at a time. Ning Shu's legal team also gathered together to discuss and organize all kinds of evidence. So this case was not difficult to fight. It did not make a difference whether they won or lost. If they won, it could only be said that they had the will of the people. If they lost, the entertainment media would be even more unlucky. The government would be even more ruthless. It was already like this, but they could still win this case. What role did the news media play? Didn't freedom of speech allow you to talk nonsense and ignore the truth of the matter? So, whether they won or lost this case, Ning Shu was in an invincible position. There was no need to worry about winning or losing. Yue asked, "Can we win?" The lawyer said with certainty, "We can win because there are so many newspaper companies." This lineup was really frightening. Because these entertainment media companies had people supporting them. They were private businesses, not media companies under the government. Some television stations also had bosses behind the scenes. Although they won the case, there was no point. Moreover, the entertainment industry was originally a luxurious and flashy place. There were a lot of inside stories. Ning Shu and Yue looked at each other. Ning Shu said, "If we lose the first round, we lose. If we lose, we can sue again. If we continue like this, I'll let you win first. Even if we win, you'll feel like you're sitting on pins and needles." Ning Shu kept all the evidence and took out some of the less important evidence. It was difficult to win the case, but it was easy to lose. On the day of the trial, Ning Shu wore a hat and a mask. She went to the entrance of the court and many news reporters interviewed her, /BK. Chapter 2847. Ning Shu took off her mask, revealing a haggard face. She said into the microphone that she believed in the law and the country. Yue wanted to come, but Ning Shu didn't let him. She was Yu Lihe's direct guardian. Especially after the divorce, Yu Lihe lived with her. She should be the one to handle everything. Yue had his own career, so it wasn't good to get involved. Although Yue was a pervert, he treated his daughter well. Because there were too many newspapers suing, the newspapers chose 2 representatives. When they met at the entrance of the court, their eyes were filled with daggers. "You've reported so many celebrities' private lives. You're so pretentious. What's in it for you? It's for you to gain popularity, but you don't know what's good for you. Some celebrities would do unimaginable things for the sake of headlines and for the sake of being reported. It was all to gain some popularity." The 2 sides glanced at each other and entered the court. This lawsuit was really the focus of attention. The gallery was full of reporters, and the lawsuit was even broadcasted live. The recent uproar was about to come to an end. Who was the winner and who was the loser? Ning Shu sat at the plaintiff's table, and the 2 newspaper representatives sat at the defendant's table. Then, there was a huge group of lawyers. These lawyers were all very powerful. Any one of them was very famous. Now that they were grouped together, there was a sharp feeling of 10,000 swords converging into one. Before the defense started, the whole court was shrouded in a suffocating atmosphere. The reporters in the gallery were as quiet as chickens. After the opening ceremony, the lawyers from both sides started to attack each other. The scene was very intense. It also affected many people who were watching the live broadcast. Their hearts were pounding. They were very nervous. The judge couldn't help but wipe his sweat. This lawsuit was very stressful. If there was a slight mistake, they would face a lot of criticism. Gradually, Ning Shu's lawyers' momentum weakened. Although they were trying their best to turn the tide, they were just struggling bitterly. The reporters and people watching the live broadcast also realized that Wuxia might lose the grudge between her and the newspaper company. Not all the cameras were focused on Ning Shu. Ning Shu's expression was painful. She clenched her fists and her body was trembling. Sigh. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. The lawyer also felt quite sullen. It was clearly a case that he could win, but he lost just like that. Of course, if he were to lose, he had to lose at a certain level. He had to lose step by step and not lose all of a sudden. The morale of this side was completely suppressed. The defendant's expression was even more indescribable. He was mentally prepared to lose, but winning was definitely a surprise. In order to intimidate these superstars who didn't know what was good for them, the amount of compensation was set very high. If you lost, you would have to pay this much money, including compensation for psychological damage and all other aspects. The judge had presided over so many cases, but he had never encountered such a situation. But what could he do? Of course, there was insufficient evidence. There was no slander or blackmail as the plaintiff had claimed. The court was adjourned for the time being and the two sides were asked if they were willing to reconcile. Ning Shu was so agitated that he lost control and shouted, "I absolutely will not reconcile. Nothing can make up for the harm you have done to my daughter. I was frightened by the kidnapping, and now I'm hurting her with these things. I'm a mother. I can't protect my child. I'm useless." Ning Shu was not convinced and wanted to sue. The media had wanted to reconcile, but with the other side's rebuke, they sneered. "Sue. You'll definitely lose next time. Giving some compensation could settle this matter." Actually, if they won, they would be roasted. The public's reaction and the department's reaction would be. They had clearly won, but the newspaper representative's expression didn't look good. Sometimes, when the stronger side won, it would arouse the anger of the people. The internet was turbulent and filled with a pessimistic and helpless atmosphere. Many people were comforting Ning Shu, telling him to stand up and fight again. "We'll all support him." Some celebrities also sent their condolences. It was as if they were sad. Indeed, celebrities were the weak side when facing these entertainment media. Especially these newspaper companies who had backing. Sometimes, they could only grit their teeth and bear with it. The newspaper companies needed to rely on celebrity gossip to make money. If they said anything, people would write even more nonsense. Things like rumors, even if they were fake, as long as you cleared your name and proved your innocence, it would still spread. For the sake of your career, you could only bear with it. People with discerning eyes could see how much the media had gone overboard this time, but they still lost. It was such a sad thing. Ning Shu went to the hospital to visit Yulihi. There were 4 bodyguards standing at the door, like door gods. No strangers could enter. Ning Shu walked into the ward. Yulihi looked at Ning Shu and didn't say anything. Ning Shu took off his jacket and asked, "What's wrong?" "Mum, if there's really no other way, let's leave this place. We can't win against so many people." Yulihi secretly used her phone. She already knew that her mother had lost and had to pay a large sum of money. Ning Shu patted her head and said, "Don't worry. This matter hasn't ended yet. We still don't know what the outcome will be." This time, they had lost because they wanted to create more hype, so that they could roast that person. Yu Wei rushed over and said to Ning Shu, "It's okay. Let's continue fighting. If you don't have money, I'll pay. Lihi is my daughter. I can't let her be wronged. Losing means that what the newspaper companies wrote is true. I can't take it anymore. Daughter, don't worry. Dad won't let you be wronged." Yulihi's heart was sour and sweet at the same time. It was as if she had thrown an effervescent tablet into water. She kept bubbling, giving off a sour and bitter taste. Yue Wei gave Ning Shu a look. Ning Shu understood and left the ward. Yue Wei said, "Those 4 people have already been sentenced. 13 years. That was very little. In the original plot, everyone had died. At that time, because of the bad influence on society and the killing of the hostages, they had to be sentenced to death. But this time, because Ning Shu saved Yu Lihi, the hostages didn't die. The punishment for these people was also much more relaxed. Don't worry. I've asked someone to take care of them. They definitely won't have it easy. Rich people can make ghosts push millstones." Ning Shu expressed that he was very relieved. He really wouldn't let them off so easily. The pain in their bodies would make them doubt their lives. While the 2 of them were discussing how to deal with the kidnappers, the 4 people in prison were miserable. During the time from the hospital to the station, they couldn't say a word. When the police asked, no one spoke. They also didn't have the chance to confess and try hard to show that they wanted to repent. They didn't answer any of the questions. It gave the impression that they were stubbornly resisting and not pleading guilty. "You can do whatever you want. Okay, since you're like this, then there's no need to be polite." The prison they went to was the kind that locked up murderers, drug dealers, and all kinds of vicious criminals. One could imagine how miserable it was to serve a sentence in this kind of prison/BK. Chapter 28-48. Serving a sentence in such a prison was already very difficult because the people inside were too fierce. In addition, with Yue Wei bribing them, their days were even more difficult. The sunrise was brighter than the fire, and he was laughing in the chrysanthemum bushes. 10 years was enough for these people to suffer enough. Even if they were released, they would be in a broken body. The criminals were easy to deal with. There were legal punishments, and gray areas outside the law could also be punished. The next problem was the media. It would probably cause a huge commotion in the industry. Some people were too lawless. Ning Shu and Yu Lihi discussed that after the second court hearing, they would travel everywhere to relax, both domestically and overseas. They were already suffering. If they didn't find something to do to dispel the depression in their hearts, it would be easier for them to be depressed and in pain. There was nothing they couldn't get over. Ning Shu felt that he had lived to this day because he was shameless and self-reliant. He had encountered so many heart attacks during the mission. If he didn't know how to relieve them, he would have been done for. Yu Lihi wanted to go, but she was worried that others would recognize her. After thinking about it, she decided not to go. Ning Shu said directly, "Don't think too much about it. This matter is only a hot topic right now. After some time, it will naturally fade away. We will either go overseas or go to some remote areas. Not everyone will recognize us." Yu Lihi nodded. "Thank you, Mom." Ning Shu saw that Yu Lihi's mood wasn't good, but she wasn't too agitated or hysterical. Although she didn't sleep well, she didn't show any signs of depression. Occasionally, Ning Shu would take her out of the hospital to relax. They would go to the streets to eat skewers and drink cold beer. Although it wasn't very healthy, it was carefree. Then, they would sneak back to the hospital. Ning Shu gathered the lawyers to prepare evidence for the second court hearing. They would definitely win the second time. The first time was just a small matter. After the second court case, there would probably be a reorganization. Celebrities were public figures and had to pay attention to their image. However, the entertainment media was writing nonsense and tarnishing the celebrities' image. It was true news that could be reported. This was the mistake of public figures. The social atmosphere needed to be guided. During this time, many media outlets came to Ning Shu, saying that they could reconcile and that they would not publish anything about his family in the future. Ning Shu smiled, indicating that it was impossible. Was that all? In the plot, someone had died. They could even humiliate the dead and publish naked bodies in the newspapers. He only came to look for her in private. He didn't even post an apology in the newspapers. It was neither painful nor itchy. It was better to cut off a finger. Only when the pain came from the heart could one feel the pain in the heart of others. The pen in his hand was a murderous sword. Ning Shu wasn't afraid that these newspapers would write anything excessive. If they really did that, they would only die faster. If it weren't for the fact that the situation wasn't right, the entertainment media wouldn't have lowered their heads to a has-been celebrity. If other celebrities wanted them to report about them, they wouldn't. Who knew that she would resist so fiercely? Many newspapers no longer dared to report on this matter. They all changed their target and looked for other celebrities' private information to report. Otherwise, they would report something more official, such as XXX star's movie about to start filming. XXX TV series was about to finish filming. But obviously, such entertainment magazines and newspapers weren't good at all. People were filled with curiosity and desire to pry. The second court session began. This time, more people were paying attention to it. The gallery was filled with news reporters. Obviously, this matter had attracted the attention of various television stations and real news media. The other party was still the same few media representatives. When they saw Ning Shu, they didn't say a word and sat down according to their seats. This time, the lawyer was in high spirits. He could win the case to his heart's content. On the other hand, the lawyer on the media's side didn't seem to care. They were here to take a stand. If they won, the outcome wouldn't be good. If they lost, the other party might ask for a lot of compensation. What they wanted to do was to minimize the losses and not pay so much compensation. The lawsuit was still broadcast live. Many people watched the progress of the lawsuit online. Ning Shu's face was haggard and he looked a little absent-minded. He didn't wear any makeup. His fine lines and dull skin were displayed in front of the camera. At this time, no one said things like ugly. Even if they said it in their hearts, they would really say it out loud. This time, because the evidence was taken out, the other party was caught off guard. There were also bags of money that were used as evidence. Those bags of money were blinding. It wasn't just the entertainment media. There were many studios in the entertainment industry that specialized in digging up people's privacy. These people relied on these to earn large sums of money. As hush money. The money they earned was even more than a factory that worked hard for a year. Ning Shu took out this money to let the country know how rich these people were and that they could pay some taxes. There were also those studios that were hidden in the dark. The netizens looked at the bags of money and thought of the few $1,000s they earned every month. They felt especially sad and hated the rich. There was no suspense in this lawsuit. In the end, it was the compensation. As there were many media outlets that reported on this matter, Ning Shu gave a specific amount of compensation to each media outlet. It was decided according to the level of nonsense. The entertainment media outlet with the highest compensation was 30 million. In total, it added up to more than 50 million. Moreover, after receiving the compensation, Ning Shu immediately signed and said that she would donate all the compensation to the country and to places that needed it. Ning Shu knew that if she really took all the money, people would say that she was a scammer and deliberately caused this matter. She could still get money for creating hype. Even if the money was deserved, some people would be jealous when they saw such a large sum of money. Ning Shu said in court, "This money will be donated to the country to help those who need legal help. Everyone will have laws to rely on." This money wasn't from her own pocket. The other party paid for it. She did a good deed and didn't lose anything. It could also shut some people's mouths. If she really took this money, even if she deserved it, there would be people who would talk about it. Once money was involved, the key was that Ning Shu was doing this for the country. If she donated and the relevant departments still wanted to ban her, it would be a little unreasonable. The other party's representative's face darkened. She was using their money to do good deeds. Moreover, after the other party said these words, this money already belonged to the country. Did they dare to challenge the country? No, they could only obediently give the money and hope that this matter would pass. This should be the winter period for entertainment news. After such a thing happened, everyone had to tuck their tails between their legs and wait for the limelight to pass before making a fuss. Chapter 2849. Ning Shu said, I have another request. All the media that participated in reporting this matter should publish an apology statement. Just because they gave money didn't mean that they really knew they were wrong. Even if they gave money, they could still firmly not admit their mistakes. Publishing an apology statement was more embarrassing. Moreover, they were slapping themselves in the face. It was too fucking disgusting. After asking for so much money, they still wanted an apology statement. Don't go too far. Cutting off people's money was like killing their parents. If they really went too far, they would be unlucky and die somewhere. Then they asked for it. Did the entertainment media not have any backing? If they really didn't have any backing, how could these celebrities be so angry that they didn't dare to say anything? In short, if they gave you money, they would admit defeat. If they still wanted an apology, it was impossible. Ning Shu was in court. He looked at the other party with a dumbfounded expression. Why? You clearly slandered me. You were clearly wrong. I just want an apology, but you won't apologize. You hurt my daughter. Shouldn't you say sorry? The damage has already been done. It can't disappear. You're not even willing to apologize. You're not even willing to clarify the slandering of my daughter. How can you be like this? How can you be like this? Ning Shu's tears flowed down, along with his snot and tears. It was true sadness and despair. It wasn't a fairy-like crying. The lawyer next to him handed a handkerchief to Ning Shu. Ning Shu took the handkerchief and wiped his face. It's better to apologize. The other party is using public opinion to suppress you. If this goes on, you will easily lose your public support, the lawyer said to the entertainment media representative. These things were sold to the public. There was no benefit in losing the public support and trust. The representative felt that if they apologized, it would prove that what they wrote was nonsense. It would be even more humiliating. Therefore, it was hard to stop halfway. Whether to apologize or not was a problem. This time, not only did they lose money, they also lost a lot of things. The biggest crisis was the relevant departments that hadn't done anything. The knife hadn't even fallen on their heads yet. This was the most terrible thing. If they didn't apologize, the result wouldn't be much better. And it might even make things worse. The representative felt bitter in his mouth. Who would have known that things would develop to this point? Could it be that he was not going to write about such a big piece of news? Could it be that he was not going to write about such a popular piece of news that everyone was interested in? However, this woman's reaction was so big. Wasn't it just for fun? Watching the show came in waves. During this period of time, it was a new story. After a period of time, there would be new things happening. Especially in the entertainment industry, there were too many things. Cheating, meddling, taking drugs, whoring, and living a life of luxury. She felt that she had actually gone to court this time, and it had even attracted the attention of the government. If it were anyone else, they would have long hidden away amidst such verbal and written criticism. They would try their best not to come out, or else they would be pelted with rotten eggs. The representative opened his mouth and said, "We will apologize. It's not an apology for you to see, but a gesture." Ning Shu immediately breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Those unsightly words about being abused by gangsters are all fabricated. In the future, there can be no news about my daughter in the newspapers. The representative nodded. All right. The lawsuit ended just like that. Ning Shu received the money from the entertainment media and immediately donated it. Then, he posted the donation receipt on the online public platform. When he said that he had already fulfilled his promise and donated the compensation to the country in his daughter's name, and donated a portion of it to the poor mountainous areas. It made her fans increase by a wave. Ning Shu didn't care at all whether or not her fans increased. Fans could also be removed. These people might encourage you, but they might also scold you. Ning Shu was now waiting for the apology statement, but this statement had been delayed. Clearly, the other party was not willing to apologize just like that. After more than 10 days, an apology statement the size of a tofu block was finally released. Moreover, the apology statements from so many entertainment media were actually exactly the same. Even the punctuation and typos were the same. It was enough to see how unwilling they were. These entertainment media with backgrounds were used to being high and mighty. Now that they had to apologize to an old celebrity who was past her prime, they also wanted to save face. Ning Shu looked at the apology on the newspaper and showed it to Yu Lihi. Although they said a few dry words, they were forced to apologize in a formal manner. They were unwilling, but they were forced to apologize. You can imagine how they feel in their hearts. Yu Lihi looked at the newspaper. Although she was happy, she asked worriedly, "Mom, you've offended so many people. What if something happens?" This situation was like reporting to the teacher that other students bullied others. Although the teacher taught those who bullied the other students a lesson, those students would continue to beat the other students. There wouldn't be any restraint. Instead, they would fly into a rage out of humiliation and hit even harder. The students who reported to the teacher would have a harder time. Ning Shu patted Yu Lihi's head. "Don't worry. Mom knows what to do." Although Yue felt that it was a pity that the money was donated, he also knew that if the money was accepted, their weak position might be reversed. Once money was involved, people would use a magnifying glass to look at them. Although it was difficult, they had received so much money. They should be content. There were even conspiracy theories that the whole thing was just a show, and that even the kidnapping was fake. There were even rumors that the media was scamming. Now that they didn't want money, they only wanted justice. It would definitely make those people feel better. Yue said, "I'll find more bodyguards. You should pay more attention to your safety." Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "You should also take bodyguards with you when you go out. Maybe they will find you. By the way, you'd better not mix with girls these days. Stay away from the limelight for a while." Yue's face fell. He looked very frustrated. Although he knew that it was all for fun, he was sold out at such a cheap price. Yue's self-esteem couldn't take it. Yue waved his hand. "I know. You don't have to worry about me." Ning Shu asked, "Is the situation in your company okay?" "I'm in the business. The entertainment industry doesn't affect me. You and our daughter should pay attention to your safety. I'm leaving." Yue left under the protection of 2 bodyguards. Ning Shu returned to the ward and turned on the computer to check the news on the internet. A bomb dropped from the sky. That was a document issued by the relevant department. The general content was to rectify the mess in the entertainment news. There were also some gossip studios that had to be registered at the Bureau of Industry and Commerce. It was impossible to change places after one hit. Once the rumor came out, the source was immediately found. A long list of entertainment media was asked to close down for rectification. But after this rectification, it was uncertain when they would be able to open again. Chapter 2850. More than half of the entertainment media were unlucky. For a moment, there were whales everywhere. There was also a warning list. These were all celebrities with bad records. They weren't banned directly. They were just warnings. If they did it again, they would definitely be banned. Wuxia's name was on this list. Although she wasn't banned, she was warned. During this period, she couldn't work even if she wanted to. And Ning Shu didn't want to work. He wanted to accompany Yu Lihe first. Of course, this matter wasn't over. She had cut off so many people's source of income. Even if she couldn't be killed, she might be put in a gunny sack when she walked on the streets. She might be robbed of her kidney. That was why he wanted to seek help from the government. Ning Shu donated another sum of money. He requested to change his name and age so that he and his daughter could start a new life. He had offended so many people. The other party replied and told Ning Shu not to worry. The more high-profile you were, the less attention you paid. The more inconspicuous you were, the easier it was to be killed. Things like changing one's name and age could be investigated. Ning Shu thought about it and agreed. There was no point in hiding. It was better to let all the media fear her. Ning Shu wanted to apply for protection. He hoped that he could get protection and donate a sum of money for education. With this protection and bodyguards, it would be much safer. He needed bodyguards, but he also needed to start training to have the ability to protect himself. Ning Shu smiled and said to Yu Lihe, "Daughter, do you want to learn Qigong with mommy?" Yu Lihe was speechless. Qigong was fake. Ning Shu said, "Then let's learn some taekwondo and self-defense skills. In the future, we will have the strength to protect ourselves." After the entertainment media apologized, Yu Lihe's mood improved. At least, she wasn't so depressed. Yu Lihe agreed to learn taekwondo. After staying in the hospital for a while, Ning Shu brought Yu Lihe home. It wasn't their previous home. It was a new villa with a more complete security system. It was slightly safer here. The paparazzi didn't have a job. Even if they went to take photos of other celebrities, the newspapers were closed. There was no way to publish or release news. Recently, the entertainment industry had been quieter than ever. Whether it was the celebrities or the entertainment media, they were all as quiet as chickens. This made the onlookers quite bored. Every day, when she was tired from work, she would read celebrity gossip when she was free. Regardless of whether it was true or not, it was just for fun. But now, she couldn't even see the fake news. Especially when it came to gossiping, everyone was more cautious than before. Even if it was a rumor, there had to be evidence. It didn't mean that the rumor was true. In short, everything was calm and peaceful. Some people were guessing if Wuxia had been knocked unconscious and if she was still alive. After offending so many people, the news agency was ordered to close down for rectification. There was no deadline for the closure of the news agency. The document stated that the news agency would only reopen after the rectification, but there was no specific date. It was obvious that they were not going to let them do it. Especially the few companies that were the fiercest in this matter. Some small news agencies and gossip societies that relied on sex to write stories were emptied out. This kind of shameless and unscrupulous newspaper could never be reopened in this lifetime. The boss probably knew about it and ran away with the money. He had never thought of revenge. He had only wanted to earn money. Now that he had earned enough, of course he would run away. The cost of this kind of crime was relatively small. He could just move to another place and do it again. But the rumors were even tighter than before. The good thing of being able to attract traffic with just a few words from a random celebrity was gone. Once a scandal was made, the department's face would not look good. There were so many departments in the country. The department that was in charge of this would lose face. Of course, they had to rectify it vigorously. Some things, regardless of whether it was a malignant tumor or the department's fault, felt that they were meddling in other people's business. In short, they had to bear the responsibility regardless of whether it was good or bad. This time, the whole nation was watching the drama. Didn't the higher-ups know about it? They knew. This was already ignoring the bottom line of morality. For someone who was kidnapped and came back with her life hanging by a thread, they were still being used like this. They didn't ask for the truth and only cared about sales. It was like this today. If anything happened in the future, even if it was a matter of life and death, they would ignore it. The bottom line of morality would only get lower and lower. Without rules, without a clear boundary in telling you not to cross it, these people would only keep testing the bottom line of society. Because of this matter, the celebrities were more relaxed recently. They didn't have to worry about people following them the moment they went out. It was rare for them to be relaxed. Ning Shu, the person involved, disappeared without a trace. He also didn't update his status. After the matter was resolved, he didn't appear on public platforms or television programs even once. Many people left comments on Ning Shu's public platform, hoping to get a response from Ning Shu. Ning Shu glanced at it and didn't reply. He and his daughter were learning self-defense methods from the bodyguards. Generally, they would attack the vital parts so that they would have some time to escape. Yu Lihe was learning very seriously. Ning Shu, who knew grappling and fighting techniques, also learned along with them. There was basically no spiritual energy in the modern world. Ning Shu could only absorb the power of the fiery sun to cultivate. If there was enough fiery sun, it could increase the strength of the cultivator and improve the quality of the body. It would give them some ability to protect themselves. He insisted on pulling Yu Lihe to cultivate with him. He treated it as meditation. As for whether she could absorb the fiery sun, it would depend on her own aptitude. Generally speaking, when cultivating peerless martial arts, the first thing to absorb was spiritual energy. If there was no spiritual energy, the cultivation progress wouldn't be great. However, Yu Lihe's appetite had increased a lot. If she didn't have enough energy, she could only get it from food. Every day, she jumped around and ate a lot. Yu Lihe couldn't go on a hunger strike even if she wanted to. When eating, people would feel happy. Yu Lihe was worried that she would get fat if she ate too much. However, after a long time, her body didn't get fat. She felt at ease and could eat half more food every meal. No matter how much she ate, she wouldn't get fat. However, it was useless to cultivate when she was fat. Yu Lihe said to Ning Shu, "Mom, will you get back together with Dad?" Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "You want him to get back together with us?" Yu Wei was suitable to be a friend, but definitely not a husband and wife. Because he wouldn't be loyal to his wife, physically or mentally. And the most unbearable thing in a marriage was betrayal and infidelity. If they were separated like this, they could still talk nicely. If they were together, it would definitely be a mess. Whether we're together or not, he's still your father. Ning Shu ended the topic. Let's plan where to go for a trip. I have to think about it. Yu Lihe ate. Ning Shu opened the newspaper. There was no more news about Yu Lihe in the newspaper. At this time, no one dared to go against the trend. Not long after, these things would be forgotten by people, and new things would happen. Chapter 28:51. For example, there was a big incident recently. A young hunk was caught taking drugs. It made those little fans cry. Even if you go to jail, we'll wait for you. Those bitches are bored and reported my husband. I want to go on a hunger strike and pressure them to let my husband go. Once they met such fans who wanted to kill their idols, the relevant departments would definitely not be soft-hearted and ban them forever. This kind of person didn't even have normal morals and morals. This kind of news was real, especially when the police even did a urine test. It was reported by the public. This kind of news was all over the place. The previous kidnappings had disappeared without a trace. However, because her status hadn't been updated on her public platform, many people thought that something had happened. For example, she had been killed or something had happened to her. Those media were now trembling in fear, trying to get the documents to open for business. In the end, the internet ended up saying that Wuxia was dead or missing. It even became a fucking hot search. They didn't do anything at all, okay? Why did they suspect them at the first moment? If something had happened to Wuxia, the police would probably suspect them at the first moment. Because only they had a grudge against Wuxia. Those paparazzi who didn't have jobs and had nothing to do for the time being, even if they had thoughts of revenge in their hearts, could only calm down when they saw the news on the internet. Some paparazzi were still waiting for celebrities, hoping to take some real photos and sell it to the media for a large sum of money. As long as celebrities and the entertainment industry were around, these paparazzi wouldn't disappear. These people were also part of the entertainment industry. However, because of the previous incident, the department now required paparazzi to have identification documents. Just like regular reporters, they had to be tested. They had to be standardized. This kicked out a large number of them. Of course, there were also those who were sneaky and did the work of paparazzi. Without identification, they could also sell the news to others. In short, the entertainment media was in a winter period. A few large entertainment media companies hadn't reopened until now. The money they had lost was huge and it made people's hearts ache. In addition, with the compensation from before, those who weren't strong enough had already closed down. Those who were strong enough were still fighting for the procedures to reopen. Looking at the big events in the entertainment industry, there were so many spectacular things, but they didn't have any part in it. They had no money and no popularity. Especially now that Wuxia was dead and missing, it was purely to prevent them from getting the documents. Where the hell did that Wuxia go? Could she make a sound? Those who didn't know would think that he had done something to her. The control in this area was getting stricter and stricter, and the requirements for celebrities were about the same. Once a celebrity did something illegal, they would be banned without exception. If there was a stain on morality, it would be a stain on the stars. Although it was trending, Ning Shu was still indifferent. He still didn't think of replying. It was the department that called Ning Shu to respond. Of course, he had to listen to the words of the country's daddy. Ning Shu immediately went on the platform and said a few words affectionately, saying that he was fine and thanking him for his concern. She would not appear in public for a long time. With so many things happening at home, she planned to take a break and spend some time with her family. Because I almost lost it, I feel very lucky and cherish it. Please don't worry. After blabbering on, he could be considered to be sincere. Yu Lihe decided to bring Yu Wei along for the trip. Ning Shu. You want to set your parents up? Actually, this was the best situation. If they got together, their relationship would definitely be worse than it was now. If they didn't have anything to do with each other, it wouldn't be good to ask for anything from each other. Yu Wei agreed without thinking. Okay, let's go on a trip together. I can protect you guys. Yu Lihe held the phone and said happily, you don't have to protect us. I can protect you. She had learned some self-defense methods and moves. Ning Shu took the phone and said to Yu Wei, you shouldn't come. A family of 3 going on a trip is too big of a target. I'll take Lihe out for a walk and relax first. Yu Wei was silent for a while and asked, do you have money? I'll send some money to our daughter. We can go out and eat and have fun. You don't have to save. I have money. That's it. Ning Shu hung up the phone, making Yu Lihe, who had snatched the phone, speechless. Mom, do you still hate Dad? Ning Shu didn't want to talk about this topic. He said casually, no, let's pack up. Yu Lihe sighed. The two of them packed up and went to the airport the next morning to go on a trip abroad. Ning Shu went on a trip abroad half for Yu Lihe, and the other half for himself. Anyway, the client had some money. She felt depressed when she went out for a walk. When she returned to the system space, there were only a few places she could go. She took this opportunity to walk around, see the mountains and rivers, see the volcanoes and the sea, and vent the depression in her heart. The current situation didn't have time for her to be sad or sad. She felt like she was squeezing her pimples. The pimples burst. That feeling was good and painful. Ning Shu felt this way about 2333's departure. He felt relaxed and depressed. He felt sorry for the things that he couldn't bear to use or spend. He saved and saved, but now they were gone. No matter how famous he was in the country, no one would know him abroad. He didn't speak the same language, but it was very easy. Yu Lihi's face showed a smile with vitality. Ning Shu couldn't help but smile and press the shutter. It was good to be alive. Yu Lihi had the chance to see this beautiful world. She was also alive. She could start to explore the sea of stars. Ning Shu let out a long breath. He wanted to let out the depression in his heart. Ning Shu and Yu Lihi walked and stopped, and they went to a lot of places. Yu Lihi often sent Yu Wei emails. The emails were full of photos they took. She would take photos wherever she went. Yu Wei was a little envious. Seeing his daughter smile, he was very happy. He was afraid that his daughter wouldn't be able to come out. He was right to let Wuxia take care of his daughter. Mr. Yu, Miss Chen Xian is waiting for you outside. She said she has something to tell you. She won't leave until she sees you. The secretary walked in and said. Yu Wei closed his computer. When he heard that the woman was here, he almost couldn't help but roll his eyes. She actually had the face to look for him at this time. Was she shameless? Call her up. Yu Wei felt that if he didn't do something, people would really think he was a fool. The moment Chen Xian came in, she wrapped around Yu Wei's body like a water snake. She talked endlessly about a role in a TV series that she had her eyes on. She wanted to bring money into the production. Of course, Yu Wei would pay for it. Yu Wei didn't feel anything. He didn't even feel angry. Bring money my ass. Chapter 2852. Yu Wei pushed Chen Shi away and patted the non-existent dust off his suit, causing Chen Shi to be a little confused. She asked carefully, "What's wrong? You want to bring money into the group and want me to fight for a role for you?" Yu Wei asked expressionlessly. Chen Shi nodded, "Yes, I'll do anything you want. Scram, don't ever appear in front of me again. You sold the news to the paparazzi, you should know what my attitude is." Chen Shi immediately stuck to him seductively, "I didn't do this, it was my assistant who leaked the news. I knew and taught her a lesson. Don't be angry, change your position later." Damn, there was indeed something wrong with her brain. She couldn't understand what he was saying at all. Could it be that he was a rich but brainless person? How could he keep his money if he was rich but brainless? He was old and should cultivate his mind. Yu Wei couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with her and directly called the security guard to throw her out. If this woman came again in the future, there was no need to inform him. What about the house? Did he really think that it was yours to live in? His name was even written on the property certificate. "I want you to stay, I don't want you to stay, I don't want you to stay." This time, not only did Chen Shi not get any money, she even lost her big house. Originally, she watched a drama and wanted to be the second female lead. When she went for the audition, her acting wasn't very good and the director didn't pass. She wanted to bring money into the group. With her status, she could definitely play the second female lead. Chen Shi's heart was bitter. It wasn't easy to kidnap a rich man, but it was gone just like that. And it was a divorced rich man. Maybe she could become a rich man's wife and marry him. His money would be hers, and hers would still be hers. What should she do now? Without any backing or money in the entertainment industry, it would be difficult to survive. Those directors were all looking down on her. They didn't want her and said that her acting was bad, but in reality, it was because she had no backing and no money. If she had money and backing, the directors would definitely bow their heads. Heartless man. She was really sad. She felt a sense of despair as if she had been abandoned and betrayed. But the most important thing now was to find a house to live in and then find a chance to make a comeback. She would definitely meet a noble person. She didn't believe that she wouldn't. She didn't believe that she wouldn't meet a good man. How could Yue let her go so easily? All the bosses and partners who were on good terms with Yue warned them not to have anything to do with this woman. She was a brainless daughter. It was like a puddle of mud. After playing with it, his whole body was covered in yellow mud. It felt like he was covered in feces. It wasn't smelly, but it was disgusting. Men with a bit of money and resources, of course, were more likely to have resources like beauty than ordinary people. Usually, they would just put on a show. Every time she dressed up beautifully, she would go to all kinds of banquets and private clubs, but very few men would take the initiative to strike up a conversation with her. Even if she did, the man would be indifferent. After being thwarted so many times, Chen Xian felt that Yue was really a good person. If she wanted to give him a bag, he would give her a bag. He wouldn't be stingy when it came to money. Moreover, he didn't have any weird fetishes. Some people had some weird fetishes and liked to torture women, but Yue didn't. Chen Xian wanted to go back to Yue, but every time she went to the company, she was chased out. She couldn't even see him. She was used to this way of life. If she had to choose a more difficult way of life again, she would not be able to do heavy work. She couldn't help but feel a little regretful. At that time, it was the paparazzi who found her and gave her a sum of money. This sum of money was not much to her, but no matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. This money could at least eat a good Western meal, a romantic candlelight dinner. Moreover, something like being kidnapped would be reported sooner or later. Even if she leaked the secret, it wouldn't be a big deal. She didn't expect Yue to be so angry that he let his daughter live with his ex-wife. She thought that he didn't like his daughter. However, Chen Xian thought wrongly. She and Yu Lihe didn't have any heads. Even if Yue didn't like her daughter, she was still Yue's child. She had a close relationship with Yue. She sighed. Every day, she wanted to see Yue, or do something to move Yue and let her return to his side. Even if she couldn't become famous, she could still live a carefree life. If she could marry Yue, it would be even better. From then on, she would become the wife of a rich family. Therefore, she started to crazily pursue Yue. When she had time, she would make soup and carry a thermos to the company. Even if the security guards didn't let her in, she would wait at the company entrance. Even if the sun was strong, she wouldn't be afraid of the heat. If she got hot, it would make Yue's heart ache. It would prove that she was sincere to Yue. Yue, this woman was probably moved by herself. He had hypnotized them that they were very much in love, right? Otherwise, why would she be so immersed in the act? Was she thinking too much? Originally, they were all doing it for money and sex. Now, they were acting like they were really in love. There was nothing wrong with that, right? For the sake of a meal, she could ignore his words and indulge in herself. This was love. Why did she have to use such a fig leaf? Was there a point? Yue complained to his daughter about this matter. He said that he had been scammed and that the woman blamed him. Yu Lihe was so angry that her cheeks were puffed up like a toad. Her father was so unparticular. To think that she wanted her parents to be together again. But her father was still so unrestrained and wanted her mother to be with him. That was unfair to her mother. Ning Shu glanced at the two of them chatting. He was expressionless. It was obvious that Yue wanted to spend a lot of effort to get rid of this woman. When she threw away her pride and dignity as a woman in exchange for a superior living environment, Yu Wei had to bleed if he wanted to get rid of her. He had to do as he saw fit. Ning Shu didn't want to care about Yu Wei's affairs. He discussed with Yu Lihi about going to the next location. They bought more climbing clothes and prepared to climb the mountain. Yu Lihi hurriedly went offline. There was no signal at the top of the mountain and she had no way to contact her father. Ning Shu had actually been searching for the source of the world along the way, but he didn't find it. He often went to places with views. These places meant that there might be the source of the world. But there wasn't. Ning Shu felt that it was weird. Why didn't he find the source of the world after searching so many worlds? But the organization actually had so many sources of the world. Where did those sources of the world come from? Ning Shu expressed that he wasn't convinced. It had been a long time since she found the source of the world. Moreover, she had no money now. If she could find even one source of the world, it would be enough to support her for a while. She was a poor person, so poor. Yu Lihi asked Ning Shu, women are afraid of pestering men. Auntie is pestering father. Will father be unable to take it and marry her, /BK? Chapter 28:53. Yu Lihi wanted her mother to be anxious. Wasn't her mother worried that her father would marry another woman? If he wanted to get married, he would have done so long ago. Your father is a prodigal son who can't turn back. Locking him in a cage is worse than killing him. The more that woman wants to marry him, the more he resists. This kind of man is impossible to settle down. Wait until I have played enough before getting married. Telling the child to wait for me to play for a while before doing homework is the same. I don't want to get married and do homework. Yu Lihi replied with an "oh." She was a little disappointed that her father didn't live up to her expectations. Her father was such a pig that she couldn't bring him along. Ning Shu and Yu Lihi climbed to the top of the mountain and took pictures. Every time they went to a place, they would take a lot of pictures. The backup system, the mission has been completed. We will leave this world in 10 minutes. Host, please prepare. This mission was considered completed. Ning Shu looked at Yu Lihi, who was standing at the top of the mountain. No matter what, Yu Lihi was a person. The client's wish was fulfilled. He wanted to save his daughter. Ning Shu sat on the snow and said to the backup system, leave the system. Due to her weak soul, Ning Shu felt as if she was bungee jumping. She felt extremely uncomfortable and unwell. She returned to the system space and retched. Damn, it was so uncomfortable. Ning Shu was kneaded once and then squeezed dry. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and rested for a while. It was too dizzy and uncomfortable. How long had it been since he felt this way? In the past, when he was forcefully stuffed into a mission, he didn't feel this way. That was because his soul was strong and durable. But he couldn't do it now. He was old. Ning Shu clicked 3 times before he opened the attributes panel. His soul was weak, and he didn't pay attention to it. He wanted to open the panel, but his sensitivity wasn't good enough. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27. Rank, Super Mission Taker. Points, 467 plus 20. 10 million points for 1 point. Soul, 42 plus 2 life, 38 plus 2 wisdom, 44 plus 2 luck, 44 plus 2 charm, 34 plus 2 spiritual power, 48 plus 2 martial power, 43 plus 2 aptitude, 43 plus 2 faith, 0 plus 5,000 merit, 50,000 soul, 70-69 authorization, 0 pure heart, none law comprehended, water elemental law. Water elemental law incarnation, law of wood, incarnation of the law of wood, law of space, incarnation of the law of earth, constructed world, reincarnation world. Items, calming halo, calming pill, faith halo, amulet 4, upgraded amulet plus 2. Honorary titles, goddess of war, selfless ancestor skills, 5th ring shooting technique, level close combat technique, minor achievement in peerless martial arts, level poison technique, low-level business management knowledge, beginner code programming, beginner lawyer skill, heavenly master ghost catching skill, beginner cooking skill, level embroidery skill, trash hypnosis. Aura, mother of the world, queen's blessing, sister model worker, Chen Shi's blessing, leader aura, grass blessing, best friend of a lifetime, Miao Miao Miao's blessing, life-saving hand, Zhu Sun Yang's blessing, founding woman, Chen Ermiai's blessing, beauty-in-law, Chen Ning's blessing, bane of the blood clan, Jasmine's blessing, transcendental race communication, Bai San Yang's blessing, brave heart, Wang Ying's blessing, bloodthirsty tyrant, Ni Bingyan's blessing, heart of peace and joy, luck halo, faith halo, and longevity. Complete the wish of Wuxia. Mission completion rate, 100%. Total mission rewards, 15 point cards, 16 attribute points, 80% of soul power, 5,000 faith power, including previous world's accumulation, there was 80% of soul power, and 80% of it was his. Because the backup system was intelligent and not alive, it did not need soul power at all. In the past, 2333 would take away a part of the soul power. Ning Shu hurriedly absorbed the spiritual force. At this moment, every strand of spiritual force was of no importance. After absorbing for a while, he absorbed all the soul power. It was 80% of soul power, but why was there more this time? The most intuitive feeling was the absorption time. The absorption speed was the same. In the past, it was absorbed very quickly, but this time, it took a little longer, which meant that there was more soul power. This thought circled in his mind for a while. Ning Shu more or less understood that the soul power she received and absorbed was not as much as the data. It was only 70%, 60%, or even 50%. Although the system had an unshakable 10%, 2,333 absorbed her part. He absorbed a little each time, but not much. After each time, it accumulated quite a lot. In fact, 2333 might have taken more soul fluid and soul stones every time he sent over. Ning Shu gritted her teeth. She used to believe in 2333, at least in some aspects. He said that he could skip the law of nothingness and refine it. Now, it seemed that he was just suffering. If someone foolishly jumped in, they would also suffer. Suffer the pain of being devoured. She would not be of any use if she jumped in. She was just an ordinary soul. She would be killed in minutes. 2333 did not care if she died or not at that time. Ning Shu shook her head. There was no point in thinking about this now. She should strengthen her soul first, so that she would not feel uncomfortable every time she did a mission. Without additional soul power, she could only rely on missions. Ning Shu took the black bone umbrella and prepared to go to Nine Palace Mountain to look for soul fluid. Could it be that she could cooperate with the Chongsam man to get some soul power? Ding dong, the chat system rang. Ning Shu felt that it was not asking her to pick up trash, but asking her to pick up trash. She was such a weak soul, how could she pick up shards? Ning Shu used her finger to tap a few times before opening the chat system. As expected, it was a message from the main system. The general idea was that she knew about the Sea of Law and the Zhengqing. Don't go around saying that there was a problem with the Sea of Law. Don't flaunt that you know a lot of insider information. If these things were to spread, it would only cause panic for ordinary mission enforcers. Do your job well, keep your mouth shut and don't say too much. If you really can't help but find someone to talk about these things, then you should be prepared for the possibility of being silenced. If these things were to spread, people would be restless. Only by killing you can the morale be stabilized. Ning Shu was speechless. Oh, your sister. Ning Shu understood a little now. The person who picked up the shards shot her. Other than the imprint of the law of earth, he probably wanted to silence her. At that time, if not for her immunity, she would have really died. 2333 would have to change hosts again, and might even be forced into the law of nothingness again. 2333 must have sensed something, so he hurriedly took the things and ran away. After absorbing her soul power, he ran away. Ning Shu gasped for breath. There was an indescribable feeling in her heart. Her body was cold and shivering. Main system, please complete the volunteer mission. Ning Shu. Complete the fucking volunteer mission. /BK. Chapter 2854. When Ning Shu saw that person now, he wanted to stab him with a knife and turn his body into a fountain. However, since 2333 had run away, he would definitely look for him. He would look for him everywhere, in billions of planes. Haha, he deserved it. Ning Shu poked a few times and closed the chat system. If her soul was in such a state and she still went to pick up the fragments, who would take responsibility if her soul collapsed? Could it be compensated? Such a thing did not exist. Could she get her assets back? Ning Shu felt that it was impossible. Ning Shu did not have any hope. Those things were equivalent to nothing. Could 2333 not use them and keep them for growth? She was a poor person and kept everything she had. She thought that if she ran out of money in the future, she would have to rely on these things to make some money. Ning Shu walked into the world of reincarnation with the black bone umbrella. The first thing he did was to look at the reincarnation pool. The reincarnation pool used to be the size of a basin, but now it was the size of a water tank. Changing day by day, it really did change quickly. Hopefully, this reincarnation pool would grow a little bigger. After all, this was the first reincarnation pool in the world of reincarnation. Its size determined the potential of the world of reincarnation. She did not ask for more reincarnation pools. One was good enough. A slightly bigger one was fine. She did not ask for much. The black flowers beside the reincarnation pool emitted a fresh fragrance. It made people feel relaxed and happy. They wanted to jump into the reincarnation pool and start a new life. If they jumped in, there would be no sadness, no despair, no pain. It was like heaven on earth. Ning Shu's soul was weak now. When he smelled this fragrance, he really wanted to jump in. However, Ning Shu would definitely not jump in. He was very happy. With such a attraction, he would definitely attract many souls to jump in. They would be like moths to a flame, flying towards the light. Hopefully, this reincarnation pool could be put to use soon. He had to connect to the fourth world as soon as possible so that more souls could enter the world of reincarnation. He was the happiest about the changes in the reincarnation pool. When Ning Shu saw Li Si, he gave Li Si 3 merit grains. It made his bones shine brighter and stronger. Someone is looking for you. He says he knows you, Li Si said to Ning Shu as he chewed on the merit granule. Ning Shu listened to the clicking sounds. This was the sound of the money shredder. This was the sound of money. Who? A woman? In this place, Ning Shu really didn't know anyone other than He Qing. Ning Shu didn't know what to say, and she wanted to leave. Her spiritual strength was quite weak, and that He Qing was a bit weaker. At this time, people were saying, "You're so weak, yet you can pass, so why can't I?" He was simply speechless. Therefore, Ning Shu gave a few instructions to Li Si before leaving. He didn't want to meet He Qing. She felt as if she had been tainted and couldn't get rid of it. She had saved them, who were like slaves, and now she still needed her help to find a job. How could that be justified? And the most important thing was that he didn't pass the test. Li Si nodded. "There's one more thing, but I don't know if I should tell you." Ning Shu asked, "What's the matter?" Li Si's jaw opened and closed. Ning Shu said, "I found that many souls didn't jump into the reincarnation pool, but wandered around it. I think that those soul families might want to occupy this pool. Ning Shu was stunned. Someone actually wanted to occupy the reincarnation pool. Was the reincarnation pool something that could be occupied? Ning Shu also felt that it was quite interesting. Before the first layer of Nine Palace Mountain formed the world of reincarnation, there were many soul families with powerful souls in this world. Could it be that they saw something profitable in the reincarnation pool and wanted to occupy it? Even if they occupied the reincarnation pool, what would they do when the disaster beasts appeared? Could they rely on their bare hands? In here, other than Li Si, who was a skeleton, everyone else was a soul. Once they got close, they would be contaminated by the disaster beasts. That was wishful thinking. She had pressed so many souls into the reincarnation pool before, hadn't she learned her lesson? Yet, when her soul was weak, she started to cause trouble again. It seemed that she had to stuff these greedy souls into the reincarnation pool. I'm just guessing. Several groups of people have already wandered back and forth. Although Li Si wasn't a member of a large family, he was a servant of a large family. He could still understand a little of what these people were thinking. With the reincarnation pool and so many souls wanting to go to the afterlife, they definitely had to plunder some things from these souls. If they could only jump into the reincarnation pool by offering a portion of their soul power, then those people from the large families would be able to sit and collect the soul power of sweet potatoes. Why didn't she think of such a good business idea? Ning Shu expressed that if it worked, why didn't she charge a fee? If these souls were plundered when they jumped into the reincarnation pool, then, when they jumped in and were purified, a portion of their soul power would be sucked away by the reincarnation pool. Then these souls would really be miserable. Every time they went to the afterlife, they would be plundered twice. Would any soul still dare to go to the afterlife? Her world needed energy. The new reincarnation pool needed energy. These people were messing around. Ning Shu would be the first to disagree. Ning Shu said to Li Si with a serious expression, if anyone has this idea, don't be polite. Just push them into the reincarnation pool. Dragging me down at a critical time is unforgivable. Don't worry. You have the golden light of merit. A bunch of souls won't dare to do anything to you. Ning Shu pursed his lips. His eyes were serious. Don't try anything funny. Especially at a critical time like this. Be careful. If anything happens, don't let it go. Li Si nodded. I know. Maybe I'm overthinking. There was no such thing as overthinking. The brain had already caught the signs. That was why people were suspicious and overthinking. This was how people's intuition came about. Ning Shu went in front of the Thunder Kirin and instructed it to guard this place well. It couldn't let anyone escape. The reincarnation pool outside was still in its infancy stage. Any power was enough to destroy the reincarnation pool. The Thunder Kirin snorted. Its whole body flashed with thunder and lightning, indicating that it could do it. After all, it had blocked the gap. Even if it killed it, it would take a lot of effort to move its body away. Ordinary souls didn't have this ability. Now the world of samsara didn't have much power. Li Si had a skeleton and a thunder beast. They seemed very powerful, but Ning Shu felt that it was better to develop a power quickly. At that time, there would be 2 reincarnation pools to guard. Li Si's skeleton alone wouldn't be enough. How about finding a puppet with some power to guard the reincarnation pool for the time being? He remembered that there were these things in the exchange store/BK. Chapter 28:55. He would first go to the second level to get some soul fluid and strengthen his soul. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella. When he entered the second level, he held the umbrella very low. He wished he could use the umbrella to cover himself and prevent himself from being roasted by the scorching yang energy. Ning Shu sensed the location of the peerless martial art. He first went to find Yilin and then collected the soul fluid himself. When Ning Shu found Yilin, he found that Yilin was surrounded by people again. Ning Shu was speechless. He wanted to sigh. Why did people always want to kill Yilin? He was being chased again, but the only difference this time was that there was one more girl and one more member. The three of them had their backs to each other and formed a triangular formation to fight against the people surrounding them. Ning Shu wiped her face and didn't appear. Her appearance with such a weak soul would ruin the reputation of the red-clothed demoness. Let's see what's going on first. The three of them must be a love triangle. Xiao Qiao had also joined Yilin's team. Didn't Xiao Qiao have her own family? Miss, the head of the family wants you to take the Yanling saber back. When you return to the family, the head of the family said that he will let bygones be bygones. The people surrounding the three of them also felt quite bitter. They truly felt that a grown girl could not be kept, and her elbows were turned towards an outsider. Xiao Qiao shook her head and snorted. It was the family that said that Big Brother Yi Lin could choose a weapon. Since the Yanling saber chose Big Brother Yi as its master, and father went back on his word, this is really despicable. How will others look at the Qiao family? The surrounding people's expressions were not good. They said helplessly, Miss, the Yanling saber is Qiao Jia's family treasure. If it was taken away, what will the Qiao family use to intimidate the younger generation? Moreover, the Qiao family doesn't care what outsiders say about us. Because the head of the family's youngest daughter was present, these people were restrained, afraid that they would hurt Xiao Qiao. When Ning Shu heard these words, he could almost imagine the ins and outs of the matter. When he went to look for Yilin, this delicate little girl said that her family wanted to reward him. Obviously, he didn't expect that he would take something good from someone else and return the favor. However, he took away the symbol and treasure of his family. Ning Shu saw the saber hanging from Yilin's waist. The scabbard was especially gorgeous and full of power. It shone with a terrifying luster. Xiao Qiao said, but the Yanling blade has recognized Brother Yi as its master. If you want to take it back, you have to kill Brother Yi. You can't do that. Big Brother Yi is innocent. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead. This matter was still unsolvable. However, Ning Shu felt that if he were Xiao Qiao's father and took away the family treasure, his daughter would follow such a man as if she had lost her mind. She probably wanted to kill this guy too. Looking at Yilin's tired and annoyed look, he probably didn't expect to get this thing either. Looking at the two beautiful girls, Bai Sisi was pure and holy, and Xiao Qiao was delicate and charming. Then, would there be a mature and beautiful girl in the future to make up for Yilin's regret of losing his parents when he was young? Why was it that from Yilin, she could already see the image of a stallion man who had many wives and concubines and lived in harmony with his harem? Could it be that she was also a member of the harem? Ning Shu, she was just a soul. The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more his face twisted. Could he complete his mission properly and not just fall in love? Romance would wear down one's willpower. Could it be that Yilin's remaining life was not to save this woman, but that woman? With so many people around, it was easy to get distracted. Thinking about it carefully, Yilin was besieged and suffered because of women. One was her, one was Bai Sisi, and one was Xiao Qiao. Ning Shu, was the heavenly Tao asleep now, or was this world much more tolerant of Yilin because it was no longer a big problem? He decided not to go out for the time being. Ning Shu wanted to see how strong Yilin was now. The Qiao family members who were chasing him this time were not weak. They were the strongest and the leader. If they fought, Yilin should still be able to beat them. However, there were two women beside him who needed to be protected, so his hands were tied. Xiao Qiao stood in front of Yilin. You can't hurt him. Brother Yi is right. You can't do it. Don't worry about her. Just kill her. The Qiao family head rushed over with a cold face. The Chiao family head was a middle-aged man with a strong murderous aura. Seeing his youngest daughter protect this man, his face turned even uglier. Family head. The Chiao family members all saluted. Father. Xiao Qiao stomped her feet and looked at her father. How can you go back on your words? It was the sword spirit who chose Brother Yi. I know it was the sword spirit who chose him. Just kill him. The Chiao family head was angered by his daughter's attitude. He had a way to get the sword spirit to leave Yilin, but his daughter's attitude made her want to kill him. They were all bad people who wholeheartedly protected their lover, disregarding the life and death of their family, wholeheartedly thinking for their lover. The Chiao family head thought of himself as an open-minded person. At least Yilin was the red-clothed witch's disciple, but he still treated him with respect and rewarded him. In the blink of an eye, he kidnapped his daughter and even took the family treasure. Father, if you want to kill Brother Yi, you have to kill me first. If you treat me like this, I'll see my mother in the underworld. The Chiao family head's face was gloomy. He looked at his daughter with disappointment. He loved and protected her, but she turned out to be such a traitor. Father, you have to think about how to explain this to mother. Xiao Qiao had no choice but to use this to threaten her father. Ning Shu, your mother was either turned into soul fluid or went to the world of reincarnation. She might have already been reborn. To be honest, this Xiao Qiao looked like she was blinded by love. She didn't care about anything and only had eyes for Yilin. There were always some women who had a discerning eye. Even when a man was down, they would follow him without hesitation. It was very touching. Xiao Qiao was more or less like that now. Ning Shu sympathized with the Chiao family head. Of course, his disciple was also an undeserved disaster. When these intelligent creatures or supernatural beings chose their masters, they would determine based on their master's luck. At the very least, they had to determine whether this person could become a powerhouse. As a weapon used by a powerhouse, it would be known and worshipped by others. This worship and faith would also make the weapon stronger. People pursued fame and fortune. Intelligent weapons also pursued fame. When a person achieved the Tao, even his chickens and dogs would ascend to heaven. It was necessary to choose a good master. Some spirit beasts and weapons wanted to hitch a ride on the son of the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, why would all the good things be in front of the protagonist? Why not in front of ordinary people? Because ordinary people didn't have enough power. To put it bluntly, it was gambling. Whether these weapons had masters or not, they would attract covetous eyes and cause some fights. Obviously, this scene was caused by the fight for the Yenling Saber/BK. Chapter 2856. Xiao Qiao stood in front of Yilin to deal with her father. Yilin's expression was quite complicated. It was hard to tell if he was happy or unhappy. Bai Ci's expression was not good. Her face was stiff. The veins on the back of her white hand that was holding the sword were bulging. It was obvious that she was trying to hide her inner emotions. Ning Shu sat on the branch and wanted to appear. However, Yilin suddenly opened his mouth. Patriarch Qiao, I have no intention of taking your family's things. It's just that this saber suddenly recognized me as its master. As for Xiao Qiao being so proactive, Yilin did not expect her to run away with them in the end. This, Yilin couldn't help but glance at Bai Ci. Bai Ci snorted coldly and turned her head away from him. Patriarch Qiao's expression softened. He knew that if this continued, he did not know what his daughter would do. Was she really going to wander around with a kid without a family? Moreover, this kid did not even have a sect. Although he had a master, his master's reputation was not good. He could not lose his family's treasure and his daughter. Calm down, calm down. He did not even encounter such a big problem in his cultivation. Why was educating his daughter so troublesome and difficult to deal with? Xiao Qiao wanted to say something but was interrupted by Yi Lin. Thank you for your kindness, Miss Qiao. However, this kid only saved people with a slight effort. I did not expect to receive a reward, let alone such a heavy reward like the Yanling saber. Yi Lin took the Yanling saber from his waist and handed it to Patriarch Qiao with both hands. This belongs to the Qiao family. The Qiao family should have a way to break the contract. Ning Shu swung his almost transparent legs and looked at Yi Lin. At least his brain was normal. If they fought, it would not solve the problem. The Qiao family would not let this go. Anyone who stole the family's treasure and kidnapped the family's young miss, a proud daughter of the family, would not be able to take this lying down. Although the treasure had automatically recognized its master. It was not clear who was right and who was wrong. It was all because of the peach blossom. If Yi Lin did not save people, then it would not be right. Family head Qiao calmed himself down and nodded. I will let you break the contract with the Yanling saber. Let me try. Yi Lin simply said, thank you for your trouble. Patriarch Qiao bit his finger and smeared the blood on the back of the saber. The blood gradually seeped into the back of the saber, but not long after, the blood was squeezed out by the Yanling saber. Obviously, Yanling saber didn't care about the Qiao family. Patriarch Qiao's face was a little ugly. This Yanling saber was originally an item from Qiao Jia's ancestor. It had been passed down from generation to generation and had always been supported by the family. Because its power was too great, very few people in the family would want to take the Yanling saber for themselves. What if someone took it for themselves and betrayed the family and ran away with the saber? Therefore, the Yanling saber had always been shelved as a symbol of the Qiao family. The Qiao family head used his divine sense to communicate with the saber spirit inside, but the communication was not very smooth. The Yanling saber recognized itself as its master. The Qiao family's ancestor was the saber spirit's master, but it didn't mean that the descendants of the Qiao family's ancestor were also its masters. Patriarch Qiao wanted to use violence to erase the Yanling saber's consciousness, but the Yanling saber was precious because of its consciousness. Without this consciousness, the Yanling saber was just an ordinary divine weapon. It had no spirit energy. However, the saber spirit clearly didn't want to go back with them. Even if they brought up the ancestor, the saber spirit's former master, the saber spirit's attitude was still cold. It even started to attack Patriarch Qiao. Because it was a consciousness attack, Patriarch Qiao's face turned pale and his lungs shook. A mouthful of blood reached his throat, but Patriarch Qiao swallowed it. Father. Xiao Qiao looked at her father worriedly. Can you take back the Yanling saber without harming Brother Ye's life? Patriarch Qiao felt even more stifled. The mouthful of old blood that he swallowed was about to spit out again. Holding it in like this was very harmful to the body. Patriarch Qiao. Yi Lin frowned and looked at him. Can't I? There's only one way left, and that is to kill you. Then the Yanling saber will have no master. Yi Lin's expression changed. It seemed that there was no other way. They could only fight. No, I definitely don't agree to kill Brother Yi. Father, is there any other way? Father, can't you give the Yanling saber to Brother Yi? All these years, our Qiao family has survived without the Yanling saber. Without the Yanling saber, our Qiao family can still stand. We rely on ourselves, not the Yanling saber. Ever since the ancestor passed away, the Yanling saber had been shelved. At most, it was used as a spiritual guide to let the future generations know how powerful the ancestor was. In fact, whenever the family encountered a crisis, they didn't rely on the Yanling saber to get through it. Even if the Yanling saber participated in a battle, it was on its own. No one could control the Yanling saber. Now that the Yanling saber has found its master, why don't you give it to someone who can really control it? It'll complement each other and be on good terms with Brother Yi. If anything happens to the Qiao family, Brother Yi won't ignore it. We can also receive the help of the Yenling saber. Father, Ning Shu held the umbrella and listened to Qiao Qiao's words. No matter what the Qiao family thought, Ning Shu felt that this girl had already given the Yenling saber to Yi Lin as a dowry. In the future, Yi Lin would help the Qiao family. No matter what identity he had, he would definitely help the Yu family. There was nothing wrong with that. The Qiao family head was probably very upset. His daughter's words were all on the side of a young brat. The situation became a little awkward. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella and jumped down from the tree branch. He landed slowly and touched the ground with the tip of his foot. Ning Shu didn't give anyone a chance to speak. He directly asked Yi Lin, "Do you want this saber?" Yi Lin was a man. Even if he was only a 15 or 16-year-old youth, he loved divine weapons. His heroic spirit was ingrained in his bones. Of course, he would like it. But he couldn't take it. Yi Lin said, "A gentleman doesn't take what others like. Let's just forget about it." Although he said that, Yi Lin felt a little sorry for the Yenling saber that had chosen him as its master. A good saber had followed him and recognized him as its master. But he was going to abandon it. Yi Lin felt a little uncomfortable. "Who are you?" The Qiao family head looked at Ning Shu vigilantly. He didn't think that this woman with a weak soul would be Yi Lin's master. After all, she was a red-clothed demonic woman. Ning Shu wasn't wearing red clothes anymore. Moreover, his soul power was so weak. It couldn't match up to the vicious red-clothed demonic woman. Maybe it was some weapon's consciousness. When Bai Ci saw Ning Shu appear, she let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, her senior had appeared. Bai Ci's heart was very complicated. She didn't want to walk together with Yi Lin anymore. Qiao Qiao looked at the woman who appeared vigilantly. She opened her mouth and said, "It's not whether Brother Yi wants this or not." Chapter 2857. Yi Lin looked at the Yenling saber in the Qiao family head's hand. The Yenling saber was trembling slightly, which made Yi Lin feel very conflicted. Ning Shu said directly, "This is easy to solve. Call the earthworm out. The earthworm's poison could corrode and pollute the soul. The saber spirit was also a soul, so the earthworm could completely remove the connection." Yi Lin was stunned for a moment. He took out the earthworm from the spirit beast pouch. The earthworm was sleeping, but it was taken out. Ning Shu looked at the earthworm and was dumbfounded. The earthworm used to be an earthworm, but now it had become a silkworm. It was fat, white, and tender, and its whole body was swollen. It suddenly became so fat. Damn, it was even more disgusting. Soft bodies were already disgusting. Now the earthworm didn't need to dig holes all day long. It ate and slept and ate, so it was much fatter than before. Ning Shu was so disgusted that he didn't even look at it. Ning Shu said, "The poison that this thing spits out can pollute the saber spirit. We can use this to negotiate with it." "What will happen if it pollutes the saber spirit?" The Qiao family head asked first. Ning Shu said, "The saber spirit of this saber will disappear. The saber spirit will be in extreme pain, and the saber might even be destroyed. I won't let you kill Yi Lin. This saber has its own choice. When it has no consciousness, it has no choice." "Don't do that," Yi Lin and the Qiao family head said in unison. "Then let the saber spirit take the initiative to remove the contract." The problem is that the saber spirit is unwilling to remove the contract. If you take the saber home, what if the saber spirit takes its anger out on the Qiao family? A married daughter is like spilled water. It's the same principle. We can talk about it and have the best of both worlds. Ning Shu didn't look at the fleshy earthworm. He said to it, "Show the poison." This guy was almost useless. It was so fat that it probably couldn't dig through the ground anymore. It was born in hardship and died in comfort. It probably wouldn't be able to dig into the ground to hide in the future. He didn't want to touch such an earthworm at all. The earthworm obediently bared its fangs, and a drop of black poison floated between its fangs. The Yenling saber vibrated violently and flew out of the Qiao family head's hand. It floated in the air, obviously afraid of the poison spat out by the earthworm. This kind of poison was a great killing weapon for souls. Any soul that was contaminated would not be able to escape death. It was not easy for a weapon to form a soul. If it was a little stronger, it could form a physical body. If one was touched by such a thing, it was very likely that all of one's cultivation would be destroyed. Seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages was an instinct that all intelligent creatures had. "I'll discuss it with it now," Ning Shu said. Apprentices were really too troublesome. He had to come over every time to solve a problem. When the master had something to do, the disciple had to do the work. Why was it the other way around? However, he had also obtained a lot of soul fluid from Yilin. So, he decided to treat it as soul fluid. "Father, should we give the Yenling sword to Brother Yi? Do you really want to see the Yenling sword destroyed?" Patriarch Qiao's face turned cold. "Shut up." Ning Shu also nodded. "Yes, you shut up." He did not like this girl. "You." Qiao was already a little hostile to this girl who suddenly appeared. Especially when she saw that Yilin seemed to listen to her, she felt a little sour in her heart. He was also so rude. This is a matter between the Qiao family and Brother Yi. Why are you interfering? Ning Shu flipped her hair. If I don't appear, do you think I'll just watch you make the relationship between the two sides worse and then fight? It'll be better if one of them dies. Will it be your father or my apprentice? You're talking nonsense. I never thought that one of them would die. Apprentice? Qiao did not react. Your brother Ye's master. You're the red-clothed witch. Qiao covered her mouth with one hand. She was a little surprised and pointed at Ning Shu with the other. Ning Shu felt that he had lived for so many years that he should not bicker with a little girl, even though he was being pointed at by someone. The head of the Qiao family narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. He scolded his daughter, "You're not allowed to be unruly." Ning Shu extended a vine from her hand. The vine formed a swing. Ning Shu sat on the swing and said, "I've more or less understood this matter. How do you want to solve it?" "I don't want my apprentice to bully the weak, but the Yenling blade chose to kill my apprentice. Killing my apprentice to take back the Yenling blade is not kind. If you insist on killing my apprentice to take back the Yenling blade, then the Yenling blade will be useless. Let's make a deal. See what you need in exchange for the Yenling blade." The apprentice was here to collect debts. Yilin thought for a moment and said, "Master, don't destroy the Yenling blade. I'll talk to the blade spirit." Yilin sank his consciousness into the Yenling blade. After a long time, he came back. His face was pale as he said, "The Yenling blade does not agree to cancel the contract." Ning Shu was not surprised at all. It was not easy to meet a child of the heavens. If he lost this opportunity, who knew how many years he would have to wait? Weapons also had ambitions, okay? The Qiao family head's face was very ugly. He had lost all his face. Ning Shu said, "The weapon chooses its owner based on whether the owner can become a strong person in the future. Family head Qiao, just treat it as an investment. Investing in a strong person. A strong person's favor is not something that can be bought with money. Also, I see that you've reached a bottleneck. If you don't break through, your lifespan will be over. Are you willing to die and reincarnate as a weak person or even an ant?" Ning Shu took out a white porcelain bottle. "The thing inside can extend your lifespan. It will give you enough time to comprehend and increase your strength to another level." The Qiao family head's eyes flashed. He looked at the bottle in Ning Shu's hand. He was obviously struggling. At the same time, he was shocked. How did Lin Fan know that he did not have much time left? However, lifespan was something that many people pursued. The emperors of the human world tried to find ways to live forever. For cultivators, breaking through a level would also increase their lifespan. However, if they did not comprehend it, they would still die when they reached a certain age. Perhaps it was because of the birth of a new reincarnation pool. Ning Shu now had a special ability to see people, especially people who were about to die. He could actually sense that the other party was about to die. The Qiao family head still had a few decades of lifespan. However, this little bit of time was like the snap of a finger to a cultivator. If they did not comprehend it, no matter how strong they were, they would still die. Qiao obviously did not know that her father was about to die. She immediately cried out with tears in her eyes. "Father, is this true?" "It's true. If I die, who will protect you?" The Qiao family head admitted generously. Xiao immediately panicked. To her, her father was like a towering mountain. He was indomitable and would shelter her from the wind and rain. If her father was no longer around, she would be the only one left in the world. So scared. Chapter 28:58. Patriarch Qiao glanced at the buzzing Yenling sword floating in the air. After weighing the pros and cons, he sighed, "All right, Patriarch, the Yenling sword belongs to the Qiao family. We can't let anyone take the Yenling sword away." Some people disagreed, some agreed. "We'll listen to Patriarch." If Patriarch Qiao died, the Qiao family would be in chaos. Especially since Patriarch Qiao didn't have a son, the other branches were already secretly scheming. Ning Shu sat on the swing with his toes on the ground. Among the people present, Ning Shu was probably the most comfortable and leisurely. Bai Cixi moved to Ning Shu's side. "Father, this is a good way to get the best of both worlds. There's no need to destroy the Yenling sword, and it's also good for father." Qiao quickly said. "It's great to have a perfect solution now." Patriarch Qiao felt stifled. He didn't know if his daughter was happy for that stinky brat or for him. Ning Shu gave the white porcelain bottle to Patriarch Qiao. Patriarch Qiao opened the lid and felt a strong aura of life. Just by smelling it, he felt his body's heavy illness ease a little. It was worth it. The Yenling sword's heart was no longer with the Qiao family. Patriarch Qiao cupped his hands to Ning Shu, "I'll give you face. I hope he'll treat the Yenling sword well." It was an ancestor's item, but now it was taken away. "Thank you, senior. I'll definitely take good care of the Yenling sword. I won't disgrace the Yenling sword's reputation." Yi Lin quickly cupped his hands. Qiao, come back with me." Patriarch Qiao looked at his daughter with a sullen face. Qiao was a little unwilling and said, "Father, I want to go out with Yi Lin to gain experience." Yi Lin suddenly felt countless gazes piercing into his body like knives. He quickly said, "It's dangerous to follow me. I have a lot of enemies and many people want to kill me." Qiao smiled happily, "I'm not afraid, as long as I'm by Big Brother Ye's side." Ning Shu shook his head, "Little girl, you can't. You'll implicate my disciple. What I want is Big Brother Ye's decision, not yours." Ning Shu was speechless. "I'll wait for you over there. Finish it quickly." Ning Shu stood up. The swing's vines dispersed and retracted back into Ning Shu's palm. Then, he turned around and left. Bai Cixi glanced at Yi Lin and quickly caught up with Ning Shu. She followed closely behind Ning Shu. Yi Lin was sweating profusely. Clearly, he had never encountered such a situation before. If he did not handle it well, he would have angered both his master and Bai Cixi. Moreover, if it wasn't for his master's arrival, a huge battle would have been inevitable. His master was really good to him. Xiao Qiao nervously waited for Yi Lin's decision. Yi Lin shook his head and said, "I'm just a person without a fixed residence. You'll suffer if you follow me, so there's no need." Yi Lin fled under Xiao Qiao's shocked expression. Xiao Qiao burst into tears and wanted to chase after him, but her father grabbed her arm. "You're the daughter of the Qiao family. You must have the pride of the Qiao family. Father, without big brother Yi, I'll die." Under Ning Shu and Bai Ci's teasing gaze, Yi Lin rubbed his nose. Ning Shu cupped his hands and said, "I'll have to trouble master." "No problem. You're my disciple, but that thing is too precious. It's not a disgrace to exchange it for a sentient divine artifact." In the end, with one more helper, Yi Lin's strength had increased. As for that bottle of life source, she would treat it as a reward for Yi Lin helping her find soul fluid. Soul fluid was something that could not be regenerated. She could slowly accumulate life source. "I'll follow you guys for a while. I need soul fluid. Put away the earthworm. It's too hot." Ning Shu saw the earthworm squirming on Yi Lin's shoulder and felt disgusted. Just how much soul fluid did this earthworm eat to become so fat? "Two-legged monster, you said I'm ugly. You're the ugly one. Your soul has become so weak. You deserve it." The earthworm was not to be outdone. It retorted to Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't care. He covered his eyes in disgust. This made the earthworm's self-esteem suffer an unprecedented blow. Did it really become fat? It didn't become fat. It would never admit it. Bai Ci was still angry. She didn't say a single word to Yi Lin. Her expression was strange. Yi Lin had been trying to please Bai Ci. When she was thirsty, he would give her water. When she was hungry, he would give her food. Bai Ci said with grievance, "Go find your Qiao Qiao. Why are you following me?" Yi Lin felt that his girlfriend was angry. It was simply a mystery. He had explained it countless times, but Bai Ci didn't listen. She was just angry. Bai Ci saw that Yi Lin didn't speak and felt even more wronged. "You still want to take Qiao Qiao with you?" "Yi Lin, in all honesty, I can't speak." "I can't speak either." Ning Shu looked on happily from the side. She had probably been single for too long. Even a skeleton like Li Si looked handsome. When they came across a town, Yi Lin would look for a place to produce soul fluid. If there was, he would immediately destroy the device. Then he would search for the soul fluid and give it to Ning Shu. Ning Shu laughed. His disciple was so filial. Yi Lin wanted to leave some for the earthworm, but Ning Shu decided not to give it to it for the time being. If it ate too much, it would become too fat. In the future, it wouldn't be able to drill into the ground. This would harm it. Yi Lin was skeptical. He could only give the soul fluid to his master. The earthworm cursed at Ning Shu in despair. During the process of collecting the soul fluid, Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella and watched from the side. Yi Lin did all the work. With the addition of the Yanling saber, one man and one saber. With the combination of man and saber, Yi Lin's strength was greater than 3. What made Ning Shu the happiest was that he actually found a metal-type world origin in a cave in the canyon. The metal type was invincible. It wasn't easy to subdue the metal-type world origin. Ning Shu lost an arm to do so. He used the spatial laws to bind the metal-type world origin, but the metal type could cut through anything. It broke through space and tried to escape. Ning Shu also spent some effort to subdue it. Yi Lin looked at his master in shock. His master's arm had been cut off, but he was still laughing. After losing an arm, Ning Shu's soul power weakened a little. However, he still had the metal-type world origin. He hadn't found the world origin for a long time. He didn't expect to find it in this world. He didn't expect to find it in Nine Palace Mountain. It seemed like there were still many treasures in Nine Palace Mountain. There were definitely things, but he didn't have time to walk around. It was great that he had soul fluid and the world origin. The three of them walked through many places. Like a gust of wind, they swept away the soul fluid in the places they passed. With one less place to produce soul fluid, there would be more souls in the world of reincarnation. There would be a chance for reincarnation. Although they didn't know how many times they would be annihilated after reincarnation, at least they would have many chances to start over. Chapter 28:59. When Ning Shu saw that she had collected enough, she told Yi Lin that she was leaving and told him to work harder. After all, the sect was still not famous. To build a sect, one needed to work hard and have people join the sect. Only then could it become a respectable sect. Yi Lin waved at Ning Shu. Seeing her master walk into the black hole and disappear, she let out a long sigh. She wiped the cold sweat off her head. Being by her master's side was too stressful. Especially that meaningful look in her eyes. It made her feel uneasy. In any case, she was not easy to get close to. After obtaining the Yenling saber, Yi Lin was happy. She felt that she had found a companion who could understand her. In order to repay her master for giving her such a good thing, Yi Lin took the lead when collecting the soul fluid. She gave all the soul fluid she collected to Ning Shu. Ning Shu left Nine Palace Mountain. She took the soul fluid and wanted to find the Chongsam man immediately. She needed soul energy. Soul fluid was a good thing. Seeing the large jar of soul fluid on the table, she could not help but ask, "Where did you get so much soul fluid? Did you get it? Is this considered a lot?" What was a lot? In the past, every time she plundered, it would be a pool full of soul fluid. In the past, she had collected more soul fluid than the Law of Nothingness Lake. In addition, there were soul stones and golden soul origin fluid. How could this little amount be considered a lot? She could not think about it. The more she thought about it, the more her heart hurt. Don't do anything out of line when you are cornered. The Chongsam man frowned. Don't lose your future for such a small profit. Don't worry. These things have nothing to do with me. I got them through some channels. I have already passed the audit. You can rest assured. All right. Don't drag me down with you. Of course not. Besides, you are the one who bought them. I won't betray you. The Chongsam man only chuckled and sent it to the main system to be purified. When the pure soul fluid was brought back, Ning Shu drank the pure soul energy and collected the soul origin bit by bit. The Chongsam man put away his share. Ning Shu felt that relying on the soul fluid of the second layer would not be enough. After all, the soul fluid produced by the small workshop was very little. Moreover, some souls had already entered the world of reincarnation. The difficulty of capturing souls had increased, and there was also Yi Lin, who could come and plunder them at any time. In the future, there would probably be fewer and fewer people refining soul fluid because it wasn't worth it. They couldn't make ends meet. This was a good thing, but for her soul to return to its previous state, she would need a lot of soul power. Sigh, I originally wanted to go to the 5th level of the Nine Palace Mountain, but my soul is so weak now, who knows what kind of world the 5th level is. What if his soul was annihilated the moment he entered? At the very least, he had to wait until his soul was a little stronger. Ning Shu watched as the silver-haired man leisurely sipped his tea while fanning himself. Why did it feel like everyone in the world was more leisurely than him? Ning Shu asked, "Are you doing quests?" "Of course. Isn't there a mission target?" "I'm done. Come and have a seat and a cup of tea." Ning Shu also drank tea. It was good tea. He was so poor now that he couldn't even afford to drink tea. "Right, are you building a world?" Ning Shu asked. There should be someone behind the Chongsam man. Would that person tell him the importance of building a world? I don't have any thoughts of building a world at the moment. I'm looking for a world carrier. It depends on fate. The Chongsam man said calmly. Ning Shu, compared to him who wanted to build a world as soon as possible, the Chongsam man was a true Buddhist disciple. He didn't worry about personal gains and losses, and his heart was calm. Building a world is nothing more than acting as a living being for others. I'm fine now. As long as I don't step on the organization's pain and violate the organization's rules, I'll be fine. Ning Shu, thought he was very different from her. He thought that if he didn't make a mistake, he wouldn't be erased. She thought that even if she made a mistake, she would work hard to make herself more valuable so that she wouldn't be erased. What carrier are you looking for? Ning Shu felt that the Chongsam man should be like her. He should be looking for a more valuable carrier, a more awesome one. The kind of world carrier that only had one world was not good. The world tree was quite good. One leaf was a world. If there were countless leaves on a tree, how many worlds would that be? The Chongsam man just said, I don't know. I'm still thinking that maybe I don't need a carrier. There are 3,000 great Daos, and there are external objects. Anyway, it's fine as long as it can form Tao. Although Ning Shu wanted to get a better carrier, he also knew that this kind of thing was very rare. He didn't know what happened to her peerless martial arts. Even if she wanted to build a world, she couldn't. Moreover, her soul power was so weak. With the world of reincarnation, Ning Shu didn't have such a strong desire to build a world. After all, with the world of reincarnation, he could save his life. Although he might still die, he had some confidence. Before the peerless martial arts completely disappeared, Ning Shu didn't want to build another world. Ning Shu smacked his lips. He wanted to eat something, but he didn't have money. So he looked at the Chongsam man. The Chongsam man said, Goodbye, I won't send you off. Now, he didn't even have snacks. How bitter. A meal cost a few hundred merit points. With this merit points, he might as well feed it to Li Si and let Li Si become stronger and stronger. He only had 50,000 merit points and less than 10,000 power of faith. Poor. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella and left. The Chongsam man looked at Ning Shu's back and shook his head. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The backup system reminded Ning Shu, someone sent you a message. Check it carefully. Don't miss any important messages. Ning Shu opened the chat system. It was a message from Fragrant Wind, asking him to go and pick up the fragments. The main system also asked him to do volunteer missions. He could get the reward for the 4th time. He had already done it 3 times. If he picked up one more, he would get 400,000 merit points. Ning Shu was tempted. It was all because he was poor. Ning Shu replied to Fragrant Wind, saying that he would pick up the fragments and open a space tunnel. Fragrant Wind agreed and a tunnel appeared in front of Ning Shu. When Ning Shu arrived at the place through the passage, she saw Uncle Feng and Fragrant Wind Man handling the star rocks. He understood immediately. Serves him right, how did you become like this? Fragrant Wind was already irritated when dealing with the star rock. Seeing Ning Shu's transparent soul, he almost picked up the shard and threw it at her. Ning Shu, who did this to him? Fuck. Fragrant Wind asked, can you pick them up like this? Ning Shu could only say, I'll try. If I can, I'll pick them up. If I can't, you can send me back. Ning Shu didn't know whether he could pick them up or not. Uncle Zhang narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu with a smile. How did you end up like this? Pretending to be confused. Chapter 2860. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with Uncle Chang. Although he was asking, Ning Shu felt that Uncle Chang was just watching the show. Uncle Chang knew in his heart that he was just asking to confirm the doubts in his heart. If he said that, Uncle Chang would succeed. If you make me feel uncomfortable, I won't make you feel comfortable either. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and started to pick up the fragments. Fortunately, although his soul was weak, he could still use the laws. With the vines, the speed of picking up the fragments was quite fast. Ning Shu was happy. If he picked up enough this time, he would be able to get 400,000 merit points. Ning Shu hummed a tune and moved slowly. Wherever he went, the vines would pick up the fragments around him. How did you end up like this? Tan Lang dragged his bag and approached Ning Shu. Ning Shu, why are you still here? Tan Lang, I've always been here. Ning Shu stretched out his vines and said while picking up the fragments, the judge is not here. Why are you still picking up fragments? The judge had already left and he wasn't being watched. He didn't dare to leave and still wanted to pick up the fragments. How cowardly was he? If he was so cowardly, he wouldn't be able to rebel against the organization. He would be obedient. He wouldn't be able to overthrow the brutal organization. Ning Shu ignored Tan Lang and picked up more fragments while he was still energetic. When he finished picking up the fragments, Uncle Chang and Fragrant Wind were still processing the star stones. They weren't done yet. It was obvious that their speed had slowed down a lot. Ning Shu waited at the side and asked, "Are there any extra star stones this time?" Ning Shu saw that some of the star stones embedded in the fragments hadn't been cleaned up. Fragrant Wind, no. There aren't any extra, but I can give you 2 pieces. Uncle Chang threw 2 fragments to Ning Shu. Pick them from the top. Ning Shu, pick them himself. Ning Shu looked at the fragments and the star stones embedded in them. He looked around and didn't know what to do. In the past, he took ready-made ones. Now, he had to do it himself. Ning Shu asked, "How?" "Oh," Uncle Ching said. "Normal people can't handle this kind of thing." "Then there's nothing we can do." Ning Shu felt that this person had a particularly wicked sense of humor. If he didn't want to give it to him, then so be it. Why did he have to play with him? Ning Shu observed how they dealt with it. It looked like they had separated, but he did not know what tricks were involved or what kind of power they had to use. Ning Shu directly stuffed the 2 star stones into his meson space. No matter what they were, they would be swallowed by the law of nothingness. So what if they were fragments? Fragrant Wind Man and Uncle Chang worked hard and finally connected the planes. Ning Shu took some leftover materials. It was the first time that there were so few scraps. Clearly, the processing of the star rock was not perfect. Then, everyone rushed to the next place. Greedy Wolf asked Ning Shu, "Have you thought about what I said?" Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "I've thought about it. If you beat up or kill the judge, I'll join your organization." Even the judge had left and did not dare to run away. He just obediently picked up the trash. Killing the judge would be a joke. Your soul is so weak. You need soul power, right? I have a lot of soul power. Greedy Wolf was still trying to lure Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked at him sideways. You have soul power? I've lived for so long. It's normal for me to have some property. As long as you join the organization will make you as strong as a rocket, Greedy Wolf said solemnly. Ning Shu chuckled. What powerful rocket? If it was really that powerful, why didn't he do it himself? Make himself incomparably powerful and overthrow the entire organization. He wanted a small cannon fodder like her to cause trouble for the organization. If a small cannon fodder like her was killed, then so be it. He would not feel any heartache. He really treated her like a fool. Her soul power was weak now, but if she wanted soul power, she could do missions or go to the 9 Palace Mountain to look for soul fluid. If she took his things now, she would not be able to return it 10 times in the future. There was no free lunch in the world. She was like a fool. Could it be that he did not give her enough bargaining chips? Greedy Wolf felt that he had wasted a lot of time on this person, but he did not gain anything. He was not satisfied. He had invested so much time, but he did not gain anything. He had to take her down. Such a stubborn person would definitely do whatever he wanted her to do. As long as the brainwashing was successful, she would do it. When they reached the place where the plane was broken, Ning Shu stretched out his vines and started picking up the trash. If he finished quickly, he would get 400,000 merit points. In the past, he did not care about this little bit of merit points. It did not matter if he owed it. He was not in a hurry to use it anyway. Now, he needed it. Especially since her merit points were not easy to come by. Every time someone picked up 100,000 merit points, she would pick up 1 million merit points. He worked 10 times harder than others, but he was paid the same as others. Ning Shu poured the milky white liquid on the wood law imprint. The vines absorbed the law power and sped up. His mental energy was enough. He would rest for a while after picking up. Looking at Fragrant Wind Guy and Uncle Chong handling the star rocks, her heart was filled with a sense of balance. Anyway, she was not the only one suffering. Especially the irritable Fragrant Wind Guy. His face was filled with annoyance and disgust. Obviously, he could not do this work. Ning Shu hummed a tune. Only when there was a comparison would there be happiness. Sometimes, you could not compare with others what you did not have. You had to compare with others. Seeing others in the same situation as you would be filled with happiness. It was not easy for her to pick up 1 million merit points. The big shots around her came and went. Only Ning Shu and Greedy Wolf stood firm. Since there was Greedy Wolf, there should be Sun, Giant Gate, and Heaven's Abode. Although she had seen 7 kills, she had not seen the other people with Star Fate. Why was Greedy Wolf so unpopular? He was even worse than her. Ning Shu felt that it was because he had been alone for too long and desperately wanted her to join the team. Being a commander by himself was also quite a difficult task. Why was he looking for her? She looked like a rebellious person. Or did he think that she was easy to trick because she was new? Ning Shu focused on controlling the vines. He did not care about the chattering Greedy Wolf. The vines picked up all the fragments around them. Greedy Wolf, who was following Ning Shu around, still had an empty pocket. Greedy Wolf opened his pocket. You should at least leave some for me. Otherwise, I don't know how long I will be punished. What did it have to do with him? Ning Shu would not control the vines to throw the fragments into his pocket. Controlling the vines did not require mental energy. It was not tiring. After picking up enough, Ning Shu planned to leave. He said to Fragrant Wind Guy, "Please send me back." "Can't you?" Fragrant Wind Guy glanced at Ning Shu. "Can't you properly comprehend the spatial laws?" "Ning Shu, I was going to comprehend the spatial laws, but you sent me a message to pick up the fragments. You have to have a reason to scold me. S. Chapter 2861. Ning Shu hesitated and asked, "Grand Uncle isn't here. Did something happen?" Uncle Zhang smiled. "What do you think will happen?" Ning Shu didn't ask any more. He walked into the passage and returned to the system space. The first thing he did was to throw the star stones he had obtained into the law of nothingness. After wandering around the peerless martial art, Ning Shu felt that the world had shrunk again. He had made a mark, but now the mark was getting shorter and shorter. This was something he could feel. The world was indeed shrinking. If it kept shrinking, would it shrink to the size of the law of nothingness? Even if the world shrank, it couldn't shrink the law of nothingness. The world was still yellow sand. There wasn't even a weed. There was no sign of life at all. This world probably didn't have any life because of the threat of the law of nothingness. If it was born, the law of nothingness might explode and devour all life. After throwing in a few star stones, Ning Shu got some life force for this world. Even if it couldn't give birth to life, it could increase the power of the law of nothingness. When the time came, he would have a better chance of dealing with the law of nothingness. Ning Shu sat on the shore of the law of nothingness for a long time. He stared at the law of nothingness in a daze. The law of nothingness was like stagnant water. There were no ripples on the surface. It was motionless. It felt like mercury. Ning Shu stared until his eyes were sore. He felt that the law of nothingness had expanded a little under his eyes. Was this a provocation? The world was shrinking, and the law of nothingness was expanding. One day, the two would collide. Oh my God, what would happen then? Wouldn't that be an explosive contact? Ning Shu hugged his head. He was having a headache. He hoped that one wouldn't shrink and the other wouldn't expand. If something like that really happened, she would have no choice but to hand it over. It was too pretentious. Couldn't he give her some time? Give her time to become strong and then deal with the law of nothingness. He decided not to look at it. Looking at it wouldn't solve any problems. He might as well try to comprehend the space laws. Perhaps one day, he would be able to open up a stable space and move the law of nothingness into it. First, she strengthened the enchantments of the three law cities. Ning Shu then went to the spatial city to comprehend the laws of space. She could construct space, but the space was not big. Sometimes, it was the size of a bubble. As long as it was enclosed, no matter what the shape of the space was, it was still space. As long as the space was stable enough. Right now, the stable space channel could reach a length of 30 meters. It sounded quite long, but when it came to traversing between planes, in the end, the damaged part of the plane was the difference between the Earth and the Moon and a grain of rice. He wondered how long it would take for the fourth level of the Nine-Palace Mountain to connect to the world of reincarnation. However, 30 meters was clearly not enough. How did others manage to construct such a long and stable passageway in an instant? Ning Shu could only slowly practice lengthening the spatial passageway. He also tried to speed it up. He was fast, but the spatial passageway he constructed was not stable. It quickly collapsed, let alone walking through the passageway. Therefore, he couldn't rush things, so he could only take it slow. Perhaps when he was familiar with it, he could quickly construct a spatial passageway. He was not good at it, so Ning Shu could only spend more time on it. Ning Shu was comprehending the laws of space. His heart moved. Someone had touched the array of the world of reincarnation. This array was used by Li Si to inform her and spread information. Li Si was informing her. Ning Shu did not hesitate. He quickly opened the black hole and entered the world of reincarnation. Holding the black bone umbrella, he headed towards the pool of rebirth. Beside the pool of reincarnation, there were many souls. They were clearly separated. One side had the advantage of numbers, while the other side only had Li Si. No, he was just a skeleton. He seemed to be alone. In terms of momentum, Li Si's side had lost. Ning Shu was furious. The pool of rebirth in the world of reincarnation was at a crucial moment, and these people were causing trouble again. Previously, there was a group of people who insisted on leaving the world of reincarnation to take a look at the outside world. They felt that the outside world was full of gold and treasures. They were pushed into the pool of rebirth by her. Now, they had their eyes on the pool of rebirth. They wanted to take advantage of the souls that were reborn. Ning Shu was not surprised. There were no more soul stones in this world. If these souls wanted to become stronger, they could only take advantage of these souls. Ning Shu felt that he should form a team to intimidate hell. Otherwise, the entire world of reincarnation would be in chaos. Especially when the pool of rebirth outside was about to mature. Although the Thunder Qilin was intimidating, he had to block the hole now. Ning Shu's mind flashed with various thoughts. He walked to Li Si and asked, "What's going on?" "An army of thousands to deal with one person." "Interesting. They have turned the pool of rebirth into their family territory. They told me to scram." Li Si said. Family territory? Was this something that these people could divide? You try to deal with them. Throw them all into the pool of rebirth. There was no need to be polite. They had already come to his door. Was he going to stay for a meal? Ning Shu took a step back and looked at Li Si. He wanted to see Li Si's current fighting strength. Even if he could not deal with the disaster beasts, he wanted to see how good he was at dealing with souls. Li Si nodded and rushed towards the group of people. The group over there was a bit of chaos. They started shouting. Ning Shu only looked and did not make a move. Li Si was like a wolf in a flock of sheep. His entire body flickered with golden light as he dealt with these souls with his bare hands. All the souls that were close to Li Si were touched by the golden light of karma on Li Si's body. It was as if they were scalded. They sizzled and emitted black smoke as they wailed in pain. Merit and virtue were very harmful to evil beings. This was also the reason why eminent monks or people who were blessed with merit and virtue were protected from evil beings. You monster! Stop! We are here to negotiate. Ah, my hand, it was a mess. Some souls were carried on Li Si's shoulder and thrown into the pool of rebirth. They flopped in the pool of rebirth for a few times. They were silent as if they were drowning. Clearly, the pool of rebirth thought that these souls were going to rebirth and began to purify them. This scene was really terrifying. Although they knew that they were going to rebirth, it was as if their souls were being devoured. Some souls saw Ning Shu standing beside the pool of rebirth. His soul was so weak, but he could still command the skeletons. To shoot a man, shoot the horse first. To capture the bandits, capture the leader first. See, this was the weakness of a weak soul. Everyone thought that she was easy to bully. The vines stretched out and wrapped around the souls that were running towards her. They were thrown into the pool of rebirth. Chapter 2862. These souls didn't want to reincarnate at all. What if they reincarnated as flowers, birds, fish, and insects? What would they do then? They would be muddle-headed for the rest of their lives. Seeing how ferocious Ning Shu was, these people did not dare to capture the leader to capture the bandits. They scampered off and began to flee. This was a total beating. Even those with weak souls were so strong. Ning Shu shouted, "This place is mine. I opened this place. If anyone dares to touch this place, I will send them into reincarnation. If the situation is serious, their souls will scatter. They won't even have the right to reincarnate." Ning Shu's voice echoed in every corner of the reincarnation world. It was like a thunderous roar. Some weak souls hugged their heads and squatted down, trembling. Those people who fled were all pulled back by Ning Shu's vines. They were thrown into the reincarnation pool like dumplings. These souls struggled to climb out of the reincarnation pool. However, it was like there were pairs of invisible hands pulling them. They couldn't climb out no matter what. They could only be buried in despair. Their memories were wiped. They didn't remember anything. They were muddle-headed and didn't know where to go. Some souls who tried to escape were so frightened that their legs trembled. They wished that their parents gave birth to them with 2 more legs so that they could run faster. Ning Shu left some people behind. These were just small fries. The truly strong souls hadn't appeared yet. He sent out some souls that were neither strong nor weak just to test their attitude. If they didn't dare to resist, then it was natural for them to take in the reincarnation pool. Li Si was able to deal with these souls easily. Moreover, the golden virtuous light on his body was very effective against souls. Not bad. In the future, if anyone comes and wants to take the reincarnation pool, just throw them in. Those who resist will have their souls scattered. It was really important to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. If you weren't strong enough, others would think that you were weak and easy to bully. Li Si nodded. Actually, these soul family clans are wantonly recruiting souls. They will even recruit souls that are slightly stronger. Those who reincarnate are actually the weaker souls. This was what Li Si observed. Very few souls with strong souls would jump in. After all, once one became strong, one would not be willing to give up. If young master had not been troubled by chi deviation, he would have chosen to reincarnate. Ning Shu agreed. Whether it was in the world of living beings or in the world of samsara, there were many cases of people forming cliques. This was something that couldn't be helped. Ning Shu wanted to scratch his head. It seemed that he had to find a way to increase the defense of the world of samsara. Otherwise, these people would have rebelled, and all of them wanted to keep the reincarnation pool in captivity. He was also quite courageous. The bigger the heart, the bigger the world. Of course, this had no effect on the rebirth pool. It only needed to purify the soul and extract a portion of the soul's energy. As for whether the soul was strong or weak, or whether a portion of it had been taken away, it had nothing to do with the rebirth pool. Pay more attention to the situation around you. I'll think of a way to get some power. Ning Shu also had a headache. Where was she going to get power? Could it be that he was looking for an abyssal prefect? Once, twice, thrice. Ning Shu felt a little embarrassed. Relying on others was not a long-term solution. Ning Shu rubbed his chin and stared at Li Si. Li Si was a native, a wild skeleton. He was not man-made. How did he succeed? Was it to seal a stubborn soul in the skeleton, allowing the soul and the skeleton to fuse together? Li Si was fuming from Ning Shu's stare. He touched his bald head and asked, "What's wrong?" Forget it, Li Si met by chance. If he used Li Si's method, he would lose a lot of souls. The success rate would be very low. Li Si did not even know how he became a skeleton. Ning Shu took out 2 merit grains and gave them to him. Cultivate well. Thank you, Grand Aunt. Li Si took the merit grain and chewed on it. That was the sound of his heart breaking. Ning Shu returned to the system space, thinking of exchanging for a puppet with force or a puppet that could help Li Si. At the thought of being poor, Ning Shu immediately found the main system and paid for 4 times. 400,000. That was a lot of money. The main system asked, "Have you completed 4 volunteer activities?" Ning Shu was speechless. Did he want to drag it out? Unscrupulous boss. Ning Shu said, "Done." He asked her to pick up the garbage with the excuse that she could get the reward if she picked it up again. Was it interesting to play dumb at this time? A Pichio that only went in and did not come out. The system notified that he had received 400,000 merit points. Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. At least he had some money. He opened the exchange store and looked for a puppet, a powerful tool that could not be corroded by the world of samsara. The puppet he found looked exactly like a human. Ning Shu liked a puppet that looked like a swordsman. The sword on its back could kill people and ghosts. He was very satisfied. The most important thing was that the puppet was handsome, which suited Ning Shu's taste. After being single for a long time, he would feel that a puppet was handsome. He was very satisfied with this puppet. It could kill enemies, analyze the battle situation and give orders. In addition to having no life, no emotions, no pain, and even calmer on the battlefield. Great. But when he looked at the price, he broke out in a cold sweat. 2 million merit points. If it was in the past, he would have bought it with a wave of his hand. But now he had 500,000 merit points, less than a quarter. Ning Shu opened the customer service and asked if he could pay in installments. 2 million merit points were too much. Customer service: sorry, small business, no credit. If you want to bargain, please act coquettishly first. Ning Shu was speechless. Things that cost a few million at the drop of a hat, and it was a small business. She really liked this swordsman, but she had no money. Ning Shu opened the chat system. He wanted to borrow money and sell his blood. Now that his uncle was busy with the star stones, if he disturbed him, he would probably explode on the spot and ask him to scram. After thinking about it, he could only borrow money from the man in the cheongsam. It was good to have a rich friend. Right, he hadn't returned the 100,000 he borrowed last time. Ning Shu returned the 100,000 merit points and said to the man in the cheongsam, "Did you see the 100,000 merit points I returned?" The man in the cheongsam: "Yes, how did you get money so quickly?" Ning Shu rubbed his hands. "Actually, I wanted to ask you for help. Can you lend me 2 million? The man in the cheongsam: "Sorry, I'm offline. Please leave a message. I'll reply to you later." Ning Shu: "Don't be like this. I really need money. When I have money, I'll return it to you immediately." The man in the cheongsam: "Don't you think you're very thick-skinned? How can you ask for it?" Ning Shu: "I'm actually embarrassed. Who asked me to have such a rich friend like you? After all, we've been in the same trench. Comrades in arms, comrades in arms. What a noble friendship." He caught him scamming him and returned the money to borrow more money. Chapter 2863. The man in the cheongsam transferred 2 million merit points over. He said that there would be interest and that he could not borrow it for free. Ning Shu nodded in agreement. It was only right to pay interest. Ning Shu wrote an IOU. He had to write an IOU for such a large sum of money. This was an IOU that had been notarized by the system. He was in debt again. Every day, he was in a state of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Ning Shu wanted to act coquettishly and bargain, but he was not good at acting coquettishly. He bought the puppet with 2 million merit points. The customer service said, "Dear, please check your receipt. The puppet has been sent." After a while, Ning Shu saw an ancient swordsman appear in the space system. As soon as he appeared, the entire system space was filled with a sharp sword intent. He stood there quietly, motionless, like a sword. His eyes looked real, but there was no emotion or spiritual energy in them. They surged with sharp sword intent. Although he was not a real person, his skin was like a real person. Ning Shu could not help but reach out to touch his face. The skin was warm, just like a human's. Damn, Uncle Chang's carpenter skills are so good, except for giving life. The puppet did not react to Ning Shu's touch, nor would it give any reaction. Listen to orders and kill the opponent. Ning Shu tapped on the black hole and said to the puppet, "Follow me." The puppet turned around and followed behind Ning Shu. It walked quite naturally, just like a human. Ning Shu brought the puppet to the side of the pool of rebirth and said to Li Si, "This is the person who will help you. If you have any orders, just give them directly. Don't beat around the bush. Don't think that the puppet can understand the meaning of thousands of words, especially when the language is profound." Li Si nodded. He glanced at the cold and expressionless puppet and asked, "What's his name?" He did not have any human feelings. It made one's heart tremble. He was cold and heartless. A name. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "Sword Lord. You will guard hell with him from now on." Ning Shu ordered Sword Lord. She didn't have a choice. This was the only thing she could make right now. As for how to make skeletons from His Excellency wouldn't tell her. If she asked too many questions, she would appear annoyed. She was not a thick-skinned person. I also want to be a noble and elegant little fairy. Yes. The sword sovereign's voice was very cold, like the sound of a stream hitting a jade, cold and indifferent. She was so cold and aloof. She was cold and aloof from her hair to her toes. She was even colder when she was not human. Ning Shu instructed Li Si not to let the sword sovereign come into contact with the calamity beast. He reckoned that the calamity beast would contaminate Li Si. Li Si felt that working with such a person was quite stressful. What should he talk about later to ease their relationship? After that, Li Si tried to find a topic to ease the atmosphere with the cool colleague, but the cool colleague ignored him and stood there motionless, as if he could stand there forever. He was not tired. He just stood there straight. Li Si felt tired just by looking at him. He accidentally touched his wrist and found that there was no pulse or heartbeat. Was this a dead person? Ning Shu couldn't help laughing. The puppet only accepted orders to fight and retreat. No matter how difficult it was, if there was no retreat, it would do everything possible to complete the task. It had no personal feelings. It was born to guard. Ning Shu didn't dare to stay in the world of samsara for too long. After all, the soul was so weak that it was easy to be contaminated. She went to take a look at the reincarnation pool. It had become bigger again. It was the size of 2 water tanks. She reckoned that it would evolve faster and faster. The next time she came, it might become a small pool. If there were no accidents, there was a 90% chance that the reincarnation pool would be successfully formed. After entering the 3rd layer of the 9 Palace Mountain, Ning Shu collected a few strands of pure Xinyang silk thread. This time, he collected less than before. Ning Shu felt that it was normal. When people were faced with unsolvable problems and unexplainable things, they would believe in something mysterious and powerful. When humans could rely on themselves to survive, they would choose to believe in themselves. They wouldn't believe in unwarranted power. Now that the environment of this world had stabilized, the living beings of this world had adapted to such an environment. They could survive very well. This was especially so for the living beings with intelligence. They would question the gods that they once believed in. If there were any, he would keep it. If there weren't any, Ning Shu would just say that it was a pity. After all, they were extra. Ning Shu held the black bone umbrella and wandered around this world. Maybe he could find another world's origin. But obviously, this was a world that had just stabilized. It wasn't enough to produce an extra world's origin. Ning Shu left the 3rd layer. He wanted to go to the 5th layer to take a look. He wondered what kind of world the 5th layer was like. Squeezing into the 5th layer, Ning Shu felt like he had bumped into an iron plate. The impact was so great that his soul hurt. She couldn't enter the 5th layer. Was it because her soul was too weak, or because the 5th layer rejected her? Alright, Ning Shu gave up very quickly. The key was that it was like bumping into a wall. It was very painful. She was afraid of pain. If she couldn't go in, she wouldn't go in. She could always go in. It was time to do the mission. The soul fluid on the 2nd layer had already been collected. There probably wasn't much left for the time being. She could only rely on missions to collect soul power. She had to be proactive when doing missions. If she wasn't proactive, her soul would always be so weak. Ning Shu returned to the system space and began to exchange for fasting pills, water, and medicine. She happily prepared to do missions. It had been a long time since she had been so proactive in doing missions. Ding dong. The chat system sounded. Ning Shu felt that it shouldn't be a good thing. She saw that the message was from Grand Uncle. Didn't he blacklist her all the time? Why did he send a message? Grand Uncle, did Xingqing go back? Damn, Jingqing still dared to come back. She wanted to eat 2,333 raw. 2333 wouldn't come back, right? Ning Shu replied coldly, he didn't come back. I don't know where he is. What did their business have to do with her? She didn't want to hear about it. It would ruin her mood. Please don't ruin other people's happiness, okay? Granduncle, please note that whether or not he is hiding in the mountain is the world in the mountain. Ning Shu was stunned. The world in the mountain. She didn't expect Jingqing to be hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain. Moreover, she wouldn't think in this direction. He stole her things and hid in her territory. This was something that only bullies could do. Could it be that Granduncle had been looking for Jingqing everywhere but to no avail, so he asked her? He had searched through hundreds of millions of planes so quickly. This speed was too fast. Even if he went around a world, it wouldn't be so fast. Ning Shu was conflicted. She was conflicted about whether Jingqing was really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain. If it was true, then her previous plan to get rid of Jingqing was purely a fool's dream. Damn it! The more she thought about it, the more she felt that Jingqing might be hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain. It was too annoying. She didn't want to have anything to do with these two people in her life. As for those things, Ning Shu treated it as paying a IQ tax. Who asked her to be stupid? She didn't feel guilty at all when others bullied her. Chapter 2864. Ning Shu felt that she had nothing to do with the previous system. She finally managed to mentally prepare herself and think positively. However, she was told that the guy might be hiding in her world of reincarnation. Ning Shu felt an indescribable bitterness and anger in her heart. If he was really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain, what if the two brothers fought and destroyed her world of reincarnation? When the gods fought, the little ones suffered. Ning Shu pulled her hair. Was he really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain? Ning Shu looked at the chat system, her fingers trembling. She didn't know how to answer the other party. If he was here, what should she do? If she asked the Granduncle to come and catch him, would Jingqing obediently let him catch him? Definitely not. Something would always be destroyed in a fight. God damn it. Granduncle, you need to enter the world of the mountain to check it out. Ning Shu. I refuse. The world of the mountain was obviously the Nine Palace Mountain. When he mentioned the world of the mountain, it lowered its style for no reason. It was very rustic. Perhaps to others, these worlds were no different from ravines. Ning Shu, I don't think he's hiding in this world. Definitely. Granduncle, why are you so sure? Ning Shu, he's shameless. Hiding in the territory of a small ant. Granduncle, the most dangerous place is the safest place. Oh, in the Granduncle's heart, Jingqing was a shameless person. Ning Shu's face was cold. What reason should she use to refuse the Granduncle's search of the Nine Palace Mountain? What if he found out? She felt so aggrieved. Even if Jingqing was really hiding in the Nine Palace Mountain, she still had to find a way to cover up for him. Because the most important thing in her heart was the world. Who knew what would happen if the two of them fought? She had just been born in the reincarnation pool. If it was destroyed like a basin of water being knocked over, who would she cry to? Could she grab the other party's collar and ask for compensation? Ning Shu racked her brains to think of a way to refuse. I think he should have gone to the billions of planes. Ning Shu, you're protecting him. She only wanted to protect her own world. She already had the heart to kill Jingqing, so how could she protect him? However, compared to the world, her current feelings were negligible. The most important thing was the world. She could definitely take revenge, but if the world was destroyed, it would be a loss and pain. Even if she took revenge, it would not be able to make up for it. Granduncle, we need to search your world. Ning Shu, her pupils shrank as she saw the Grand Elder's figure gradually appear in the system space. He was dressed in black and stood there. He could come and go as he pleased. Her system space did not have any privacy at all. If she had known, she would have placed a few mouse traps. The Grand Uncle said, "Let's go to your world now. I can enter your world. I'll tell you in advance. I refuse to be searched. Is that okay?" "Of course not." "Then what the hell are you talking about? What difference does it make if you tell me or not? You can't refuse at all." Taishu's appearance in the system space, which wasn't very spacious, seemed a little cramped, especially since the system space was stuffed full of things. There was a big fish pond, bookshelves, sofas, coffee tables, beds, and all kinds of potted plants. It was so crowded that there was no place to stand. Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the sofa and asked, "If you find Jingqing in the Nine Palace Mountain, what are you going to do?" The Grand Uncle looked at her as if she was an idiot. "What are you going to do if you don't catch him?" Ning Shu looked at him as if she was looking at a fool. "I mean, if you find him and you guys fight, what will happen to my world? My world is broken. Can you take responsibility if anything happens?" Perhaps her world looked as fragile as a toy, but it was still her world. The Grand Uncle said expressionlessly, "It won't affect your world. Besides, he might not be hiding in your world." Ning Shu smiled. "You said you can take responsibility. If something really happens and I look for you, won't you kill me? If I want to kill you, I'll kill you. What's the use of looking for you?" The Grand Uncle frowned. "Why are you so troublesome?" Ning Shu immediately covered her heart and said exaggeratedly, "The world is my son. If you guys fight in my world, what if you hurt the world? What should I do?" Ning Shu covered her heart with one hand and hammered the sofa with the other. "Can you understand a mother's feelings?" The Grand Uncle's face became colder. "I don't understand. I'm just informing you not to talk about a mother's feelings." Ning Shu opened the black hole and said, "If Jingqing is really in the Nine Palace Mountain world, I didn't put him there. When he left, he took all my things and caught Jingqing. Can you return those things to me? Also, when you guys fight, you must take care of my son. My world is very fragile. You must cherish it. You must remember that I'm innocent. My soul power was absorbed. My soul power is so weak now. It was absorbed by him. Can you return it to me?" The Grand Uncle said, "Can you shut up?" The Grand Uncle walked into the black hole and turned around. "You don't have to go. It's useless even if you go." "No, I want to go." Why couldn't she go and see what was going on in her world? No matter what, she had to set up a barrier to protect the rebirth pool. "Up to you." The Grand Uncle disappeared in a flash. When Ning Shu reached the world of reincarnation, he couldn't see him anymore. He probably went to search the world. She didn't know what kind of connection the two had. She heard that twins had telepathy. Could these two have telepathy too? Ning Shu saw that the rebirth pool had expanded again and quickly set up a barrier. This time, it was a barrier set up with the law of Earth. The law of Earth was very stable and kept increasing in thickness. She set up barriers on both rebirth pools. Whether or not she would find Jingqing in the Nine Palace Mountain, it was better to be prepared. Once people like her started fighting, it was possible to destroy a plane. Her world of reincarnation was like a bubble. It wasn't stable at all. Because of the barrier, some souls that wanted to reincarnate were directly bounced back by the barrier. They couldn't reincarnate for the time being. Ning Shu couldn't enter the world above the 5th level. He could only stand beside the rebirth pool and look at the towering Nine Palace Mountain, waiting for the result. Like an ant on a hot pan, Ning Shu walked back and forth around the rebirth pool. When the Grand Uncle appeared, he hurriedly rushed over and asked, "Did you find her?" "No, it seems she really went to a plane. The grand uncle shook his head and said. However, he set up a barrier. As long as he was here, he would be able to detect it. Ning Shu covered his heart and sighed. This should be the last time he had anything to do with Jingqing. Fortunately, they weren't in this world. However, according to the grand uncle's search speed, there were a total of 9 worlds in the 9-Palace Mountain. He was quickly caught. There were billions of planes. The chances of being caught were much lower. After a while, he would jump to another plane. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2865. This kind of hide-and-seek could allow Jingqing to have fun for a long time. Especially with so many planes, the probability of finding Jingqing was 1 in a billion. Such a small probability was even lower than finding a needle in a haystack. Senior uncle said, pay more attention to your own world. He may come back. Inform the organization immediately. Ning Shu's heart, which had just been relieved, rose again. What did he mean by coming back? 2333. How could he give up the big world outside and come to such a small fish pond? What if Jingqing used this place as a base and even ran here to hide? Ning Shu suddenly realized that the reason why Jingqing didn't kill her, besides the possibility that he might come back in the future, was probably because the world treated her as a base. Eggs shouldn't be placed in one basket. Keeping her was more valuable than killing her. Was Jingqing sure that she would still be so weak and easy to bully when he came back? Be careful that she might turn into a big tiger. But now that he wasn't here, Ning Shu breathed a sigh of relief. Senior uncle disappeared. Ning Shu sat on the soft black sand without a care for her image. She hammered her chest, feeling quite depressed. Damn it, if Jingqing wanted to leave, then leave. Why did she feel that Jingqing would definitely come back dejectedly? Or he would be chased into a corner, come back to exploit her, and then run away. Ning Shu felt like she was bleeding from her own imagination. She felt like she was a milk cow. Fortunately, the world wasn't hurt. Fortunately, Jingqing wasn't here. A person she had never met and didn't know what he looked like had caused her to be like this. It was possible that the enemy didn't know each other. What a trap. She was no longer in the mood to do missions. She might as well comprehend the space laws and calm her frightened heart. What did she owe Jingqing? Or was she a donkey that Jingqing had marked? Was she going to be his slave for the rest of her life? She thought that after leaving, her life would open up and she would run all the way. But in the end, she found that this guy was a huge rock in front of her. She kicked him away, but there was still more. Who knew that this rock would roll down from the top of the mountain and smash her to death? What a trap. Ning Shu returned to the system space. The backup system asked, would the host like to do a mission now? Ning Shu rubbed his head and scratched his hair until it looked like a chicken coop. Wait a little longer. I want to be alone. Ding dong, the chatting system rang. Ning Shu tapped it a few times and opened the chatting system. It was a message from the Chongsam man. The Chongsam man said, I need your help. There's a team mission. Do you want to join us? Ning Shu remembered that the Chongsam man had helped him a lot, borrowing money and putting in effort. He replied, sure, what's the mission? The man in the Chongsam said, come to the City of Time and I'll tell you the details. Then, you can decide whether to go or not. Ning Shu said okay and put away the fasting elixir and water. Since the Chongsam man had asked for help, she had no choice but to help. After all, friendship needed time to maintain. When Ning Shu arrived at the Time City's restaurant, there were a lot of guests in the restaurant. The waiter welcomed him and said to Ning Shu, is it the Water City Lord? The boss is waiting for you upstairs. Ning Shu was led to a private room by the waiter. Other than the Cheongsam man, there were 7 mission takers in the room. There were men and women. They should be the team members this time. Ning Shu stood at the door. Everyone in the room cast their gazes on Ning Shu. Ning Shu's soul was already very thin. "Come in." The Cheongsam man waved his folding fan and said with a smile. Ning Shu stepped over the threshold and walked into the room. The waiter considerately closed the door. "Zhu Li, is this person also a team member this time? Her soul is a little weak. I'm afraid she's not suitable for a team. Besides, this trip is very dangerous." Other than those who spoke, the others who didn't speak showed disapproval in their eyes. This woman's soul was really too weak. Even an ordinary wind could blow it away. Ning Shu wasn't angry. He sat down, picked up his teacup, and took a sip of tea. No matter where it was, one had to respect Luo Chang first before respecting people, especially when the soul was related to a person's strength. Ning Shu was quite curious about why the Cheongsam man had teamed up this time. In addition to team missions, it could also be a private mission. They would spend some money to hire other mission takers to team up. Other than working for the organization, mission takers could actually do private things as long as they didn't cross the bottom line of the organization and cause any trouble that couldn't be cleaned up. Usually, if they caused trouble, everyone would be unlucky. Judging from the Cheongsam man's posture, he might be gathering people to do private work. The Cheongsam man waved his folding fan and said, "There's a problem with her soul for the time being, but she has 3 law incarnations. She's not weak." 3 law incarnations. The people in the room stared at Ning Shu. Could this be the person who had robbed the law in the city some time ago? It was quite strange that he hadn't died. Ning Shu drank the refreshing tea. Without money, he could only drink like this. He asked, "What kind of mission is this? As long as you're not afraid that I'll drag you down, I'll think about it and agree." The Cheongsam man closed his fan and said to Ning Shu, "In the void, I heard that a world tree was born. My goal is this world tree." Ning Shu gulped down his tea and looked at the Cheongsam man. "Where does the world tree grow?" Ning Shu was confused. The Cheongsam man's eyes bulged, indicating that he was quite helpless. He explained, "In addition to the world of living beings and the world of reincarnation, there's another kind of world." Ning Shu straightened his back and sat obediently to listen to the Cheongsam man speak. He really didn't know that there was a third kind of world. Could it be the world of yin and yang? The void world is located between the world of living beings and the world of reincarnation. It's a plane without stable rules. It's very chaotic inside. Let's put it this way. It's a naturally formed space, but it's not stable. However, it also absorbs rules. However, these rules aren't used to stabilize the space. Instead, they form all kinds of rules items, such as the world tree and some items that can build worlds. Ning Shu blinked. "So you're saying that there's a treasure trove inside?" "Not necessarily. Some are very dangerous. There's even nothing inside. It might be a sea of fire or a vast ocean. Whether there are treasures or not depends on luck." Ning Shu wanted to punch her thigh. Fuck, there was actually such a place. Why did she only know about it now? The Cheongsam man probably paid a price to get information about the world tree. The purpose of this team was to go to the void world to get the world tree. Ning Shu was a little envious. It was good to have a wide range of information. She also wanted to get a world tree, but the Cheongsam man had already started looking for it. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.